Wait, hold on here. Says it's having an issue. Can you hear me? All right. Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. I hope you all can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Um, Obviously, you can see we're not in the Crime Talk studios this evening. Thanks for that. I apologize for the little intro. As you can see, I don't have Frank, the hardest working man in show business, here to help me. We're doing it the old fashioned way. Scott giving it his best try. So we're here in my backyard on my patio at this very moment. It's been a busy week, and it has also been a busy day. I was in trial prep, and hopefully the dog won't go bark at the neighbor at this very second. But obviously, a lot of breaking news this evening. Earlier this afternoon, obviously, the assassination attempt of former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, the alleged assassin was exterminated by the Secret Service. Obviously, there's going to be lots of questions as to, well, how could that have possibly taken place, where this individual was on a rooftop within shooting distance with a rifle, taking. There's been various reports from 6 to 7, 8 shots. I'm sure they'll get more information about that for sure. But I remember the last time something like this happened. This goes back to 1981. I know I'm not trying to date myself here because I think I was in grade school, and they sent us home early because that was the assassination attempt on then President Reagan. That was March 30th of 1981. The last time that we've had anything really like this, I guess, other than the guy throwing the shoe in Iraq at President Bush, I think. So obviously a crime was committed, an attempted assassination of a former president, a slew of that. Now we also know that there is at least one other fatality. Another person's been seriously injured. Now, apparently the shooter is dead, but the question then becomes, who else was involved? There's been some things floating around that they've identified this guy, but we like to have facts and not speculation, because we don't like to get sued for sure. We don't want to disparage somebody until it's kind of been confirmed. But obviously, this is a serious situation. I doubt this person just happened to get there by himself. Call me crazy. And I don't think I have some sort of tinfoil hat on or anything like that. But obviously, things did not go as planned. I think the Secret Service obviously would say things didn't go as well as they had hoped it to, obviously because their person they're supposed to be protecting, the former president, got nicked in the ear by a bullet. Fortunately, I mean, literally a couple of inches either way, and it probably would have hit the temple and potentially have killed the former president. Obviously, he is the Republican nominee for the White House, and so a lot of issues going on here. Most importantly, we're going to focus not on necessarily the political side of it, but the legal side of it. Now, first thing that I thought of was, why didn't, or how did this happen? First of all, thank goodness the former president's safe, and I would say that about anybody, and hopefully everybody is saying, thank goodness he's safe. Whether you like the man or don't like the man, you don't want to have people in elections being assassinated. That is literally what takes place in third world countries. I think, wasn't it Bolivia or something just recently, where they had all these candidates being eliminated killed, assassinated before the election. That is third world type of stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So there needs to be a big, big investigation as to how could it that this guy got on this rooftop some 400 feet away and start taking shots at the former president. Huge, huge problem. Heads should roll, no doubt. The question is, will they? Now, since we are here in the back patio, hope we don't offend anybody. We've got Miss Winnie the Bulldog here. We've got the lovely Miss Kristen over there as well. And since, like I said, it's been a busy day. I've been to the jail. I've been doing trial prep as I started trial on Monday. If you joined us Friday afternoon, we brought you the dismissal of the Alec Baldwin case. We can certainly talk about that a little bit, but I think the big news certainly right now is the attempted assassination of the former president, Donald Trump. But we can certainly, we'll see how things go. If there's a lot of participation, we can talk about the Alec Baldwin case as well. And frankly, I think that was the correct decision. When you watch the hearing and how it quickly turned into an absolute clear factual determination that the police and the prosecutors, the special prosecutors, hid evidence intentionally from the defense and tried to do it because they didn't want to create other issues for themselves, the judge made the right decision. And I wasn't a huge Alec Baldwin fan. Yeah, I was kind of rooting for him because he's, I'm a defense attorney. He's on trial for the defense. I get it. But, I don't particularly, I like Alec Baldwin as an actor, but he comes across as kind of a jerk and not a very likable guy with some of the things he's done over the years to his family members and strangers and things like that. But, the judge made the total right decision, no doubt. All right, so let's do a quick recap for those who've just joined us. For those of you who've never joined us before, my name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk with Scott Reich. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney. Been doing it going on 30 years in January. It'll be 30 years practicing criminal defense attorney. So I've pretty much, done it all, seen it all as it relates to criminal defense over that time period. We've handled cases that started out as death penalty cases, took those off the table, handled every type of criminal case you could possibly imagine. And just when you think you've heard it all, seen it all, something always still surprises you. We started this show about 6 years ago, right after the Chris Watts incident came about. We kind of followed that. Kind of thought, wow, why would anybody want to watch and listen to what I have to say? Anyway, it kind of took off. And we kind of ebb and flow as far as what we do based upon my schedule. It's been very busy. It's going to be busy next week. But I thought this was worth talking about. What we have to do is obviously everyone needs to be calm, right? I think everybody would agree that the rhetoric in politics has gotten a little over the top on all sides, and it needs to stop. As you can remember, when the Congresswoman Gabby Gifford was shot at I believe it was a supermarket. She was doing some sort of meet and greet. She was shot in the head. Thank goodness she lived. People said, oh, all the Republicans did this because there was something where they put a big bullseye on it. Then we hear today, apparently Biden was on a phone with donors and he said, it's time to put a bullseye on Donald Trump. I'm sure people will be saying, Biden did this, Biden planned this. I think everybody needs to take a deep breath and we need to figure out what the heck went on. Nobody wants anybody killed, particularly in a civilized society where we're better than this, right? You have the election at the ballot box. We don't snuff out the people by assassination attempts. That is just simply wrong. So, like I said, the question is, and obviously the dead guy who has yet to be identified, he was on a rooftop about some 400 feet away and was able to get onto the roof outside of the area of the event. But apparently I've seen interviews where guys were saying, hey, I saw this guy climbing on the roof with a rifle. I was pointing him out to the Secret Service and the police, and they were all kind of looking around. And he was even wondering, why is the president still on the why is he still on the stage? Let me anyway, hold on a second. I got no. Anyway, so the guy is seeing, pointing at Secret Service, saying, "Look, there he is," and Secret Service weren't doing anything. It wasn't until after the shots were fired that the Secret Service sniper team took out this individual. Like we said, we don't know what exactly this guy's motivation is. Obviously, we know he wanted to kill the former president and wanted to prevent him from being the future president, and he failed, and he failed miserably by this much. Literally, if you saw it, apparently the president, well, not apparently, the president has, former president has issued a statement stating that his upper earlobe was in fact struck. I even saw a picture that had highlighted where you can literally see a bullet going by, whether it missed him or not, but literally by a couple of inches. And it would not be an attempted assassination, it would have been an assassination. Thank goodness this guy did not succeed in that in any way. Now, who takes over this investigation? Secret Service, they have some investigative authority, but usually they work with the FBI. Whenever there's an assassination attempt, this is exclusive jurisdiction of the FBI. Well, we're going to see how well they dig, I guess. What are they going to do, first of all? Well, apparently this guy, the shooter, had no identification on him. So first they're going to have to get a positive ID from him. I guarantee you they've been writing warrants since this guy first got shot. They're probably doing everything they can to figure out who he is. They are writing warrants for everything. And I've seen some information, and I don't want to put out anything false. We try to be as accurate as possible for sure. But there's been reports that this guy, the shooter, put something up on social media, basically saying something big was going to happen. There's also been some information that maybe this guy was some sort of, let's say, Antifa type of individual. So, like I said, that hasn't been confirmed, but I've seen several people report that information, but we're not going to mention any names until we finally get that. But, that's just the way it is. News, more information will be coming by shortly. Now, what I think is the breaking news also is that apparently the former president was planning on coming to Denver. Now, not to have an appearance on Crime Talk, which he's certainly welcome to do, but he was going to the UFC fights that are here in Denver tonight. So we'll see if that comes to fruition as well. The president issued a statement as well. The former president issued a statement today saying that obviously that he is okay, that he has been shot. He thanked the Secret Service for doing their job, although I probably want to get somebody maybe a little better with setting up a perimeter, maybe maybe somebody monitoring the tops of those buildings, some 400 yards from an elevated position, taking shots at the president. Frankly, we'll have to wait and see. But what do we say here all the time? It's people in government. Nobody ever gets fired, right? You can be completely, totally incompetent in government, and you can't get fired. We'll see if somebody from the Secret Service detail gets fired. Whoever was in charge, that's just what we'll have to wait and see. Okay, Phillips know that info is wrong. Well, what is? Okay, all right. That's a comment between everybody there on the chat themselves. Anyway, the shooter's dead. So then we're gonna have an investigation. Secret Service turns everything over to the FBI. FBI is going to be flooding from everywhere to assist in this investigation. Let's hope they do a thorough investigation. Um, they're going to get all the social media information. They're going to get this guy's phone. They're going to do everything that they can. Yeah, uncivil law. I think assassination may be illegal. Yes, it is uncivil law. That's why you get paid the big bucks. Exactly. And that's why we're talking about it. It is illegal to assassinate and, frankly, to kill anybody, let alone assassinate a former president. And if in fact that were the case that had taken place, obviously that would be an offense punishable by death. But we have no need for that, at least at this point. But the question is going to become, and like I said, we're going to have to see where the investigation leads us. But if there were other people involved, was this guy just acting alone? Somehow, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, right? We'll have to wait and see. But hopefully, if there is in fact a connection between this shooter, now dead, deceased shooter, then need to follow the evidence where it may lead. I doubt this guy acted alone. My guess is that, based upon all the social information, the social media information that we can probably get from these guys, and since we've talked about, these various unique theories of prosecution as it relates to like a negligent theory, I don't know if this guy was some dude living in his basement or if he was like some dude living on the streets or whatever. It looked like from the pictures that I saw of him as a dead guy on a roof, it looked like he had some sort of camouflage on and had a shirt that had a shirt on it. I don't know. We don't know anything about the dead guy yet. We'll have to wait and see. Now, like I said earlier, because I am sitting on my back patio, the lovely Miss Kristen has been kind enough to join me. Miss Winnie the Bulldog is over here. Hopefully she won't make too much noise. Yes, I am going to partake of a fine cigar while we're doing this. Hopefully you all will not mind if I take an occasional puff on my cigar. Let's see. Yes, comments on it. It was the parents' fault. Put them in jail for raising their child. Well, that's the theory. Remember of the school shooters? Everyone went after the school shooters, basically saying that they should have been prosecuted because they knew or should have known something bad was going to happen. My challenge, I guess, is to everybody is let's see how that carries out here. All these individuals that knew this guy, did they participate? Did they show up to rallies? And did they do things where they were talking all this talk? Do they go out there? Should they be prosecuted? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. April says it's an inside job. April, seriously, you have to wonder how as a former president is at a rally where he's entitled to Secret Service protection, not only because of his status as a former president, but as the leading nominee for the presidential election in November. And apparently, reports have said that the Secret Service had wanted or requested more security, beefed up security. And apparently, the administration, the Department of Human Service or Department of Homeland Security, had denied those requests. So I don't know, maybe Mayorkas, Director of Homeland Security, perhaps this was his way of trying to punish the former president by not giving him the appropriate security. I don't know. Could one be charged with that as well? I don't know. There's all kinds of unique legal theories that people have been testing out in the law lately. Maybe we should probably do something, at least investigate something along those lines. Remember, we had the Crumleys in Michigan. Their son did terrible things, killed it was 5 people, if I remember off the top of my head. And the teachers, none of the teachers were charged, even though they knew that he was probably or could have been capable of doing something. And the only people who were charged were the parents, not the people at the school. They should have been. The school's been sued because it's a negligence theory, right? That's what you do, is you negligently failed to do something. And then the Crumleys were prosecuted for negligently failing to do something. but they were not. Okay, let's see here. Now, Crystal says, let's see if I can make this up. Let's see here. The bullet hit the teleprompter and the glass cut Trump's ear. And the person who died took the bullet that was meant for him. I don't him saying any condolences for this person. Actually, the president's statement, former president's statement tonight, said that his heart goes out to the families when he was thanking the Secret Service for the injured. Now, I don't know. That's the first time I've heard that the bullet actually hit a teleprompter. Like I said, we're going to have to wait to get more information. My understanding was the president was in fact hit by the bullet. You can see on the video that he catches it, and there's sounds of shot. He grabs his ear, realizes, literally grabs like something's wrong, and then gets down. It looks like he got hit. He said he was hit. I kind of take him at his word. He probably knew whether he got hit or not. But literally, had he not turned his head, he probably would be dead. And like I said, everybody needs to tone down the political rhetoric. Whether you do not like President Trump, you should not wish ill will upon anybody like that. Okay? People can have their opinions, right? It is simply what it is, but you shouldn't say, "Oh boy, I hope somebody gets killed. I hope somebody gets assassinated." That is just wrong. If you are hoping for that, you may seriously need to question yourself about the type of person that you have become if you are literally wishing for the death of another human being. I just don't get it. Regardless of what side you're on, whether you like the former president, you hate the former president, you think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, or you think he's the biggest bag of trash, you shouldn't go around wishing ill will upon anyone like that. There's a little thing out there called karma. It will come back and bite you in the butt. Okay? And I've always said there's two types of people in the world: those that are humble and those that are about to be. And when you start going around saying stuff like that you think, you're wishing for people's death, yeah, you're going to be humbled. Okay, something bad is going to happen to you. You should not do that in one way or the other. So hopefully, like I said, cooler heads will in fact prevail, and we'll wait and see. Now, there's been a lot of people issuing statements tonight saying violence is not the answer. We had the former speaker, Nancy Pelosi, state that obviously she too has been the victim of political violence as well, when somebody broke into her home with her husband there, who was beaten with a hammer. So yeah, that's, nobody should be condoning this. And if you are, I was looking at it was actually an aviation site. For those of you who don't know me, I fly, even though my plane is down currently. We expect it back shortly. But it was an aviation website that I follow, and the guy put up, a picture. And one guy said, "Oh my gosh, this guy missed." And the guy that had that page said, "You know what? This guy is unsubscribed, and basically somebody should, shut this guy down, so to speak." I mean, that's just bad taste. Who does that? Who goes around saying, "Gee, I hope somebody dies"? Okay, it's just the way it is. And don't get me wrong, I am the epitome of a free speech advocate. You can say what you want, okay? And don't make true threats to people. Can't threaten people. You can say just about pretty much anything you want, but remember, there are going to be consequences to what you say. That's just the way it's going to be. You have to remember that. You can say what you want, but be prepared for the consequences. And if you're not prepared for the consequences, you need to be, you need to basically prepare yourself for bad things that are going to happen to you, in my humble opinion. All right. So just always remember that. All right. Let's see what else is going on. Scott. Let's see. Scott Droole's uncivil rules. Ha ha ha. Let's see here. And uh, facts. Yeah, let's see here. Uncivil law. Let's see here. You send me Lisa sent a $5 super chat. Now, remember, we don't ask for super chats, but we appreciate them. It certainly helps me catch the question on the feed, and we will, in fact, um, do that. Make sure we answer any question that you have at that particular time as well. All right, let's see here. I want to just do something here real quick. Let's see here. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, the one in New York, or I'm sorry, DC years ago when the people were on the anyway, yeah. Okay, I can't get Lisa's name to come up, but Lisa, we appreciate that. Let's see here. Silly me, I want to thank you for going live. I'm going to subscribe to your channel. Finally, I've been watching almost as long as you've been on YouTube. Well, thank you, Lisa. You know, how many times do I have to say, subscribe if you haven't, hit that like button if you do, leave me a comment below, and make sure you hit that little bell for notifications when we go live or put up new content. It's almost like I've said it 1,000 times, right? But I've found that if you don't ask people to do something, they oftentimes won't do it. And even when you do, apparently Lisa won't do it, but hopefully now she will. So yeah, okay, let's see. Ruth, I was in high school when President Kennedy was shot. My parents did not vote for him, but our whole family cried when we learned of his death. It was a horrible day for the country. Well, Ruth, that was a little before my time by a few years, but as I said when I came on, my memory, I can tell you, you know, people can tell you certain days where things took place, right? You can remember 9/11. I remember when Reagan was shot. I think it was in 4th or 6th grade, but I remember we were sent home early, and I remember watching it over and over again on a black and white TV that my parents had in their bedroom, because I think my brother didn't want to watch it on the color TV. And I was just thinking, why would anybody want to kill the president? Turned out it was Hinckley, who was a complete and total nut job, mental health issues, who actually, you know, is now out of prison because they say that he is no longer a threat to himself or the community. And I think this will be a day as well where people will remember the day that the president was shot, the former president was shot, even if it was just a grazing wound. The reality of it is that you know, that's just not right. Like I said, that's like third world stuff. I think it was Colombia or or I don't know, somewhere down in Central America recently. They were having elections, and like, you know, most of the people that were running got killed. I mean, that's just crazy. It's just ridiculous. Look, uncivil law. Thanks for the super chat there, uncivil law. Appreciate that. If and uncivil law, great guy. We've had him on before, and if Frank was here, I would send him a link, and we'd put him up, and we can talk about the legal aspects of what happens in a situation like this. Like I said, there needs to be an investigation. Heads need to roll in the Secret Service as to why this was allowed to take place. If somebody denied the president's, you know, beefed up security detail based upon legitimate threats, which I'm sure they Secret Services monitor all the time. I'm sure there's a reason why they made those threats. And if somebody intentionally withheld those funds from, you know, the Secret Service out of spite or for whatever reason, they better have one hell of a good reason to do that for sure. Otherwise, you know, maybe, I don't know. I know things in politics get nasty, but, you know, there's still, you have to have common decency and respect. April says, why is it that all the great people assassinated or attempt to be assassinated start with Martin Luther King, the Kennedys, Ford, Reagan, etc.? Most less okay. We're not going to get into the political side of it, but I mean, obviously Lincoln was assassinated. Right there at the end of the Civil War. JFK assassinated. Lee Harvey Oswald, who it breaks my heart that he was a Marine, but at least you know why he could shoot that well. But the guy, I mean, that guy was a communist. He went to live in Russia with his Russian wife, and then he came back here to the United States. Reagan, a mentally ill guy, got him. Thank goodness, as the famous quote was, as Ronald Reagan was going into surgery, the doctor was explaining to him what he was going to do, etc. And his response to the doctor was, "Well, I hope you're a Republican," because his popularity wasn't too big. It was early first term, and inflation and everything was still high. I remember all that kind of stuff. I remember my dad thinking he was going to lose his job because he worked for the auto industry, and things were not well at that time. And so I remember my dad hated Ronald Reagan. Hated him with a passion. He was a true diehard working blue collar Democrat, and hated Ronald Reagan. Hated him. So let's see here. And anyway, it's like I said, whether you like a guy, you don't go around killing them. Okay. Let's see here. The feds are investigating the assassination attempts. I think the big issue is going to be, can you imagine if Trump flies from Pennsylvania to Colorado tonight to be at the UFC fight that started already this evening? Can you imagine the eruption that the crowd is going to have here? In fact, there's a UFC fighter gives former president shout out. Let's see here. The show went on Denver Saturday night after the shooting at Donald Trump's rally. The UFC fight night was underway shortly after what is widely believed an assassination attempt on the former president. The company's president, Dana White, has long been friendly with Trump, speaking at several of his rallies in the past. And White is also reportedly slated to speak right before Trump at the Republican National Convention that starts on Monday. Evan Elder apparently is a supporter as well after his win by submission against Darius Flowers on the preliminary card. Elder voiced his support for, quote, his boy. I heard they just tried to whack my boy Trump. I'm glad that man is okay. Long live Trump. Let's go, baby. Trump 2024. And he said it to an eruption of applause. Now, if we had Frank, the hardest working man in show business here, I would have Frank put that video up. We would also put up the video as it related to that. So I apologize in advance. Clearly, my computer skills need to get updated. But what do you all think? I mean, I think the biggest question is, and we have to be smart about this, we don't know that much. We don't know who this guy was or is that shot at the former president, but I'm sure the feds are going through all of his information as we speak. I'm sure they have found out who he is. I'm sure they are going through everything. They're probably already received search warrants to get into his social media, his phone, seizing computers wherever he resided. I'm telling you, the FBI will be all hands on deck on this one. And then we'll have to see if any further prosecutions will come of this. Obviously, the question is, did this unidentified shooter as of yet, did he work alone? Was he the lone gunman? Well, I don't know. But I think I know what I would ask for, and that is complete and total transparency. Debbie says, oh my God, I just hearing this first from Crime Talk. What are you talking? You just heard about this? I'm sorry, Debbie. See, that's why I gotta listen to Crime Talk, I guess. So the reality of it is, there needs to be full and total transparency. You know how the government always says, well, we're conducting an investigation. We can't tell you much more information. We're going to withhold that because ongoing investigation. somebody just tried to assassinate the former president and the leading candidate for the Republican Party. People have a right to know who this guy was associated with. Did he work alone? What motivated him? So that people, we have a right to know. If somebody tries to assassinate the past and maybe future leader of the free world, I think we have a right to know. It is just very, very interesting. Let me see if we got any more breaking news here as it relates to this. As it relates to. Okay, yeah, the president came out and spoke earlier. Apparently, he was at church, and that he had been briefed on the issue. And he said that he may even call Donald, referred to him as Donald, which I think is interesting since these two men didn't even shake hands at the presidential debate, and they disparage each other all the time. But I think that shows you some of the rhetoric. Maybe, hopefully, not. I hope it didn't take attempted assassination, but maybe a little civility can be returned to politics after this, so that we can start acting like a leading superpower in the world versus running around like a third world republic, banana republic. Let's see, is this Vanessa? Everyone has a right to their own opinion. I agree. However, it's never okay to force your opinion onto others, nor is it okay to murder someone over your opinion. Totally agree. Like I said, I'm a big believer in free speech. We want to know what these wackos are doing out there. And by censoring that stuff, that's how people get through. If some guy is, on his internet page saying he was going to do terrible things to elected leaders, guess what? We probably want to know about that. Okay. And they have a right to say bad things, right? It's not a, you can say horrible things. Nobody has a right to not be offended under the First Amendment. It's when you make true threats to somebody, where you actually say, this is a threat to you, that is what takes place. Ree, R-E-E, thanks for the $10 super sticker. Appreciate that. If you want to ask a question or put a statement in a super chat, you can always do that as well. But anyway, so remember, under the First Amendment, the government can't put in laws, restrictions, just because they don't like what you have to say, but you don't have an absolute right to say anything you want. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater because you could, cause a disruption. You can't make a true threat where you are literally trying to put somebody in fear of death. They would reasonably believe that they were in fear of death. You can't do that either. You can also be sued if you say something false and completely derogatory. Now, obviously, if they're a public figure, it's a little bit higher standard. But the reality is you can't go around defaming people, slandering them, whether written or verbally, to just because you don't like them. Okay, you can have differences of opinion, and we've always said that here at Crime Talk is you can disagree with me. There's lots of things that people disagree with me on. There's people like, Scott, I like you, but I disagree on this case about it. That's great. Maybe we made you think a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'll be the first one to tell you if I think that I am wrong. I will tell you that. Scott, have you ever had a problem with government, corrupt government and prosecutors? Yes. And what I think you're referring to is the Alec Baldwin case, which I said we could also talk about as well. For some reason, I do not have a very good cigar here tonight, and it is not lighting up very well. But yes, what took place in Alec Baldwin is not that unusual. And when I mean it's not that unusual, let's just take a look at a couple of things, right? In this particular case, the prosecutors in the Alec Baldwin case, and we can come back to the Trump thing, the prosecutors in the Alec Baldwin case hid evidence. The prosecutors have an absolute obligation to turn over all evidence, whether it's inculpatory, which means it's going to be bad for the defense. They have a right to know that so they can decide if they're going to take a deal. And if it's inculpatory, which it reduces the penalty or maybe even possibly acquits them. Now, in the case as it relates to Alec Baldwin, somebody related to this case said, you know what, I have a batch. I don't think this ammunition was at the Rust movie site, but I believe all of these rounds came from the same batch as that was there. And that was this Trexel guy, right? And he says, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, I want to turn it over to you guys for safekeeping. The police collect it, the prosecutor, the police, lead investigator all get together and if they said, hey, this is relevant to Alec Baldwin's case or the case of Hannah Gutierrez, I have an idea. Why don't we just put this in? And somebody came and turned in some evidence. We're not sure that it was at the property, so we really don't have any duty to turn it over to anybody, right? So we'll just book it under a separate booking number. Well, then at some point, the prosecution's like, oh, did we not turn that over? Oh, we're so sorry. Ooh. Anyway, this comes out. The defense files a motion to dismiss. And I'm driving back from court, listening to this in my car, and the judge is asking questions of one of the lead investigators. It's like, okay, you get this evidence. Why did you not put it as in the case related to Alec Baldwin, Alec Gutierrez? And she's like, well, we didn't think it was related because, it was maybe the same batch, but we didn't know. We didn't know if it was actually at the Rust site. So, we didn't want to complicate things. And the smoking gun question was when the judge asked who was at the meeting, the lead investigator said, well, myself, the other investigator, her bosses, and the prosecutor. At that point, I was like, oh, game over. Did I think that the judge was going to dismiss the case with prejudice? At that point, no. But I thought she was going to maybe at least declare a mistrial or exclude the use of that evidence, impose a severe and heavy sanction against the prosecution in the Baldwin matter. But then the prosecutor was like, I want to get up and make a statement. The judge was like, are you sure you want to do that? And so she started going through and I tried to explain it. And frankly, she lied. And when the judge, and we put it in our story the other day, the judge after that said that, this is about as close as you can get to basically suppressing evidence. It's a smoking gun, case dismissed. And I think that was totally appropriate remedy. So have I dealt with government corruption? Absolutely. Look at, and is it just me or does it seem to happen a little more readily? Maybe they're a little not as good as hiding it in these smaller jurisdictions. Obviously, Santa Fe, not a huge jurisdiction. We saw it in the Suzanne Morphew case. Remember? Linda Stanley, her office up there, not good at that either. Maybe the bigger jurisdictions are just better at hiding the evidence. And, obviously we had it in the Daybell case as well. Evidence wasn't turned over in a timely manner. The sanction was no death penalty. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, have I seen government corruption? Have I seen cases myself? Yes, absolutely. I have this case, and I don't want to digress too much, but it was a very, very serious case. Double homicide, attempted murder, and swear to God, we kept saying there's problems with your DNA. There's problems with your DNA. And the prosecutors kept saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Why are you being so ridiculous? How dare you besmirch our beautiful, brilliant crime lab? And, years go by, client got convicted. And guess what? It was like 6 years later, they issue a report. Oh, look, we were going back because we found some other errors. We found out that your case and along with other cases, this particular batch was completely contaminated. Completely contaminated. with one of the people conducting the test DNA. So it was faulty results. And everybody said we were ridiculous. Everybody looked at us like we had a third eye on our forehead. And how dare you besmirch these people? These are scientists. How dare you question the science? Well, I got a scientist questioning the science, and you guys think we're all a bunch of idiots. So when that letter came out, I saw the prosecutors like, "Ooh, boy, it looks like we were right, wasn't it?" Had case not long ago, very recently, very similar. Kept saying, "Where's the gunshot residue? My guy's not the shooter. My guy's not the shooter. Where's the gunshot residue? Oh, we're just getting slow, slow, slow." Guess what? Gunshot residue comes back to the guy who was the actual shooter. For a year and a half, been saying our guy's not the actual shooter, and nobody cared. Nobody cared, and it happens all the time. Now, most prosecutors are good people. They want to do honorable things. They don't want to go to prison. They don't want to lose their law license. Just like defense attorneys don't want to lose their law licenses or go to prison for doing something unethical. It's just not worth it. But every now and then, these people get a little overzealous, as they did with that. All right, let's get back to the Trump stuff. All right, that's what we're here for, and let's see what else we got going on here. Obviously, the attempted assassination of the former president. Bad situation. Like I said, whether you like the man, hate the man, the reality of it is you should not wish that anyone should be killed in any way whatsoever. You're probably just not a very nice person if you're doing that. We'll have to wait and see. Now, the biggest thing, and I think is going to be the big thing in this investigation as it relates to the assassination attempt, is one, how did this happen? How did this happen where this guy got within shooting range? Okay, on top of a building just 400 feet away, where clearly within inches of killing the former president. Huge failure, no doubt. Whoever was in charge, hopefully they turn in their resignation tomorrow and promise to assist with the investigation fully. Clearly, there was a failure, a breakdown, and why did it take? I think they're saying many shots, 6 shots, I think, were fired before the counter snipers took out the sniper. That's wrong. I just don't know how that could have happened. Apparently, President Biden has called and spoken with the former president. Obviously, politics, things get heated, but even they apparently were able to chat and be happy. Not be happy, but be thankful that obviously nobody was killed. Nobody wants to win an election by killing your opponent, right? We're not some third world banana republic here. Yep, Jen Lowe, the shooter shot from an elevated location outside the rally, but still, that outside the rally should have been pretty obvious when you see those photos from the stage. That building, I'm surprised that it wasn't sealed off. If you've ever been anywhere where any president has ever been, I mean, normally they shut down those buildings so tight you can't get in any stairwells. They have snipers on the rooftops everywhere. It is crazy. When we went to the Supreme Court, when was that? March? No, February, I think, because we had a very small amicus brief filed on behalf of a professor as it related to the 14th Amendment and various things related to that. At those oral arguments, there were snipers everywhere on rooftops there by the Supreme Court building. Sharon Brown, she says, "I'm not even a U.S. citizen, but it bothers me when their character of their leader running for the party badmouths the others. Just say what your facts are and move on." Yeah, I get it. It's politics, though. It's been going on as long as this country's been around. If you read old newspaper articles or anything along those lines. They used to get quite feisty as well. Obviously, they didn't have early on, obviously in the history of the country, they just had the press, so they had to make sure their words stuck. But it got pretty nasty verbally as well. But yeah, Lisa, new member, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Appreciate that. Let's see, this fighting out Biden. Let's see here. Jen Lowe, I agree. I think that's almost something like I said. Obviously, no one condones this incident at all. It should be condemned. Take a deep breath and let's hold our breath until much more is known. And I think that's going to be the key. That is going to be the key. Who knew what and when did they know it? Did somebody know about this guy? I mean, I'm sure he was on somebody's radar. And the question is, how did it get slipped through? The other thing is, I think most important is, how did this guy get on that rooftop? How did this guy get on the rooftop so that he had enough time to get off several rounds? How? Now there was a report. There was a guy on TV where he was literally like, "Yeah, I was standing there pointing at this guy on the roof. Wondering why is the guy on the roof with a gun over there?" And he says, "I'm pointing at the Secret Service, and they're all just looking at me like, what's going on? We don't know what's going on." So we're gonna have to see. That's gonna be the biggest thing. How did that guy get on the roof? Who let it get on the roof? I don't know what happened with this cigar. Would you mind getting me a new one with a cutter? Because this one's garbage.
What?
Yeah.
It's a Davidoff?
No, it's not a Davidoff. It's obviously a chump. I saved the good ones for a good night, so to speak. You're right. Let's see here. Sally, Sharon, you're right about all that. All the mudslinging and insults, very insulting Americans who are concerned about this country. Yeah, both sides could be bullies. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I know Trump and everybody always is like, "Oh God, will he just shut his mouth?" Right? You know, I get it. I get it. But, a little civility would be good, right? A little respect. That's the one thing that, when you go to court, things get testy sometimes, but there's still civility. And there's still the judge up there saying, you know what? Only one person's going to talk at a time. And, when the other side is done, you can respond, but we're not going to insult the other individual over there as well. You don't do it. You don't take personal shots at it. Otherwise, judges will hold you in contempt so quick that your head will spin. You have to be civil. That's just the way it is. And you would think and you would hope that we could maybe get back to some of that. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, you just never know how that all works out, so to speak. But we'll see. The biggest thing, like I said, the investigation. Who is this guy? Thank you. Who is this guy? Ooh, the good stuff. Oh, they're in the cupboard. Sorry. All right. The lovely Miss Kristen has returned per my request with a wonderful Davidoff cigar that she bought me for my birthday. If anybody knows anything about cigars, I think Davidoffs are some of the best and the finest. And hopefully that other one that was also gifted to me, but was not great, would not stay lit, which is very odd. Let's see. I don't follow Baldwin, could care less about Hollywood stuff, even though I believe justice should prevail in any case. But the Hollywood people get a different legal system. You know what? Venus, and normally I would say if the Alec Baldwin case had got dismissed for some real weird thing, I'd say, oh, he got a free pass, and there's a two-tier legal system. But I agree with the court's conclusion in this particular case. The prosecutors lied, they tried to hide evidence, and they got caught. That's just the way it is. Okay? And, the truth, or a pretty darn close version, is going to come out in the adversarial system. That is the beautiful thing about people's ideas being put out into that marketplace of idea, and people saying, this is the best way to do it. And somebody says, well, did you think about this? And through that process of questioning respectfully and challenging respectfully, we come to something that's hopefully better, or at least closer to the truth, than if somebody just tries to tell you, believe this. Like I said, I think in the Trump attempted assassination investigation here, the only way that people are going to be satisfied, or should consider it, is in this particular case, is they need complete and total transparency. As you may recall, remember the shooting in Nashville? There was this, all these writings of the shooter, and people don't want any of that information released. And the judge finally ruled, the victims' parents, the children that were killed, their parents have a copyright to it. I didn't look into that closely, but I've never heard that before in my life. But the city has fought at every juncture to not release that manifesto. And all that does is create crazy theories about it. Release it. We're adults. We are big people. We are big people. Now, Ralph, Ralph, follow the money and the Constitution. Ralph, I agree with you. And I think sometimes, Ralph, we don't always agree with each other. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's a different Ralph. But anyway, yes, follow the money. No doubt. We need to see what this guy was doing, this shooter was doing. We need to have a full investigation of who this guy is, and it needs to be open and transparent. And frankly, because the guy's dead, he doesn't have any expectation of privacy at this point. Frankly, he lost that when he attempted to assassinate the former president. And let's not forget, he killed somebody else that was a completely innocent bystander in the stands. And apparently there's another individual that has been severely wounded as well. So we, the public, should have a right to know what took place. How was there this catastrophic failure by the Secret Service to allow 6 to 7 shots, I've heard various numbers, let's just say between 4 and 8 rounds fired at the president? How did that happen? Somebody's head should roll. And I mean in the figuratively sense, not the literal sense, ladies and gentlemen. We need to have transparency as to what happened. And someone should lose their job. I'm sure they'll get a nice cushy transfer somewhere, but they won't lose their job because they're probably just so close to retirement. Don't care. Somebody totally screwed up, and somebody needs to pay a price. And even more importantly, we need to find out. There's been reports that the Secret Service detail for the former president has requested additional funds and resources because they believe that the level of threats against the president were increasing, and they were credible threats. And who denied it? Reports are Department of Homeland Security, which Secret Service falls under. That would be Mr. Mayorkas, the head of Department of Homeland Security, apparently has denied the request for additional funds. Now, like I said, been some unique, novel experiences of law over the last couple of years. Maybe there should be some kind of penalty for that as well. But I doubt anything will take place because, like I said, nobody gets fired. And I mean this honestly as it relates to both parties. Both parties, for the most part, they're corrupt. They're both corrupt. Let's just call it for what it is. Whoever is involved in the political system, they get to Washington, D.C., or it's the state legislature or the city council. It's always about the money. And their goal when they get there is to loot the treasury and enrich their friends. That's it. How can we help make all our friends and family rich? And all parties do it. Let's not single out anyone. They're all just as guilty. And that's why we should probably have term limits as well for everybody, not just the president in various states where they've decided to limit that themselves. It's going to require a constitutional amendment to limit the people in Congress to be term limited. If you don't like someone, please don't hate. Let me see. Let me go back here. Let's see here. If you don't like someone, please don't hate them. Always remain respectful. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. We can agree to disagree. You can say, Scott, you're the biggest idiot around. You don't know what you're talking about. That's fine. You can do that. But just do it respectfully. All right? Don't threaten to harm me or my family in any way. Because then we get a little more serious. All right? I can be your best friend or your greatest enemy. You choose which way it's going to be. All right? I was thinking it was, and like I said, I've got thick skin. For almost 30 years, I've been doing criminal defense. I've had my YouTube channel for 6 years. You think I haven't had a few haters along the way? I've got really thick skin. I have no real dog in any particular fight. Just follow the law. That's what we want you to do, right? We want judges to be fair, follow the law. We'll have to wait and see. Jessica, going back to the Baldwin matter. Oh, did I get that? I think I missed it because it jumped. You don't know what you're... Jeffrey, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. But I like the way you said it. Let me know what you think I'm not knowing what I'm talking about. Let me know. I used to have to hold the flashlight for my grandpa, so I had thick skin too. Let's see. Scott, you have a big cigar, biggest cigar around me right now, and I'd kill for a drag on that. There you go. Not trying to make you relapse there, Venus, but when you don't drink, your vices, you like a good cigar. The lovely Miss Kristen, she enables me. She buys me the good cigars. How can you not resist at the end of the day, a long day of work, going into trial prep, doing trial prep, and yeah. Judy, yes, it is hot out here. Thank you. Scott, looks hot. Yes, it is hot. No, it's not aluminum siding. It's like Trex or something. I don't know. We're in Denver. It's like 80. I don't know how hot it is right now, but I think it got up to 102, and I love it. Okay, Lee says most of the shots we were hearing were the snipers taking out the shooter. Good. Okay, I'm glad they got him. Okay, I would have liked to have known. I would have preferred that one never have happened. Second, I would have liked that he actually survived so that we could find out why he did it, what made this guy tick, right? Just like in criminal law, you like to know what makes people tick. I know I find it fascinating as a criminal defense lawyer is, having clients that I go in there that have been accused of horrible, horrible things. And you just think, and you ask them, after a while, you kind of like, what were you thinking? Most of the time they weren't. Most of the time they were not thinking about it. Jenlo says it's 84 in Colorado Springs. It's probably about that here. But like I said, I will take this because guess what? It will be cold enough before we know it. Let's see this. Okay, I mean, independent thinker, just because I like your handle there. It says Democrats are demented. Representative Steve Woodrow from Colorado tweeted at 6:40, the last thing America needed was sympathy for the devil, but here we are. Wow. Representative Stephen Woodrow from Colorado, of course. Wow. Um, he should just resign now. That's just inappropriate. The man had an assassination attempt on his life to, you know, tonight. Whether you like him or not, hold off. Have a little respect for the man. Um, I mean, I just stuff like that. I just can't. I just can't. I don't understand. I mean, nobody wants. You shouldn't want anything bad to happen to anybody. Um, let's see here. Bad sport trolling. Trump is obviously the main character. He can't be killed that easily. A bullet hit his ear and not his head, and that definitely the plot movie more with the main character. I mean, think about it. 110 here in California. Wow. Well, it is summertime. Um, Now, the lovely Miss Kristen is telling me that she believes that she just heard 6 gunshots in her neighborhood. Could have been fireworks, but that's the game that you play here in the city of and county of Denver these days. Was that a gunshot or was it fireworks? And I just always, it's shocking to me. We live in a neighborhood. I would say most of the homes, if not, even the lower end ones are close to $1 million and $1 million over. But yet we get people driving through here in a bunch of ratty old cars, blowing through stop signs. Then you hear gunshots. We had gunshots not just a couple blocks away the other night. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I saw this today. Let me see if I wish I could pull this up. I wish Frank was here. Where's Frank when you need him? Where's Frank when you need him? If I only had a way to pull up all of my stuff that I find interesting and try to save it. It's those were fireworks, and they probably were on something else here. But where was it? It was. I think I sent it. It was just crazy. This guy in Denver. I guess I didn't send it to anybody. I think I just saved it. And I can't, of course, find out where it is because I don't know. It's so much better when you're at the office and you have people that take care of you. It's your every beck and call. It's a lot more difficult when it's just you. You know what I'm saying? I know that sounds bad, doesn't it?
Yes.
But at the office, everybody takes care of everything for me. It's wonderful. And then I try to do this on my own, and it's a little more difficult. Anyway, what? Oh no, it's not. I'm not blaming the lovely Miss Kristen. You don't know how to do this stuff. I don't know how to do this stuff sometimes. I should know how to do it by now, but I don't. Jen Lo, we have the worst drivers in Colorado. We have community centers out the doors, movie on the lawn at night. All I hear is the bass. I think movie Top Gun is Maverick. Well, that's a good one. Great movie. Everything you need to know about life you learn from Top Gun Maverick for sure. Let's take a look. I want to get back to the Trump thing here. Sorry about that. Okay, now they got a picture of his ear. Clearly, it looks like it was shot. Just literally grazed his upper ear. Crazy, crazy, crazy that took place. Let's see here if we can find. Oh, apparently they have released pictures, but we won't be putting it up, of the dead guy on the roof. Let's see here. Photo of shooter who attempted assassination of Trump has been confirmed, authentic by sources on the ground at Raleigh in Pennsylvania after shooter was shot dead. Heads are currently rolling at U.S. Secret Service. Internal investigation teams from DHS inbound, intent on investigating the Secret Service. That is going to be the scandal. Why did that happen? How did he get up to the roof? So they're pointing at the rifles at the shooter and didn't see him get into position, but then they eliminated within seconds of the fire. All right, see, that's why it has to be complete transparency, because it is a situation where people are already starting to have conspiracy theories, and there needs to be, everybody needs to know what the heck happened, who this guy was, who is he associated with. Bottom line is, eyewitnesses say that they saw the suspect at the Trump rally go in between buildings to the next building when he alerted the police. The witness states that he noticed two officers that were looking for something or somebody, and he was looking around himself, seeing a guy on the top of the building go in between one building and the next, and then told the officers that he was up there. I went back to tell the officers that he came over there and he couldn't see him. When he turned his back, he heard shots. So Secret Service is going to be interviewing a lot of these people. Apparently had a Reddit account. We'll have to wait and see here. Let's see here. There's this photo. Gosh, I wish I could put this up. It literally shows a bullet. The picture has a bullet that was seen going by the president's head. See if we can put that up here. Look at that. There's a little bullet there that they've highlighted. Absolute luck that the former president wasn't killed. So the guy with the rifle within 152 yards from the presidential nominee, unseen, and he gets two shots off. Not exactly the best of security. I hope that let's see here. So shots on the president, return fire. Then you hear shooter is down. They stand Trump up. He has to get his shoes, and he fist pumps going out the door. That will probably be one of the that photo will probably get a Pulitzer Prize there, I would think. It would have to. What are the odds? The American flag was flying in the background, him fist pumping, and doing that. Yeah. There needs to be complete transparency. How could this guy get that, whether it's one shot or other shots? There's video of, the dead guy here. Let's see here. Show you that one. We're going really high tech, but then they zoom in on the top of the building and you can see the dead guy. We need to find out who this guy is, what took place, and the question is, obviously he's dead. He's not going to be prosecuted for the attempted assassination, but he's going to be prosecuted for, he should be prosecuted, or people that are associated with him and helped him in any way. How did he get the firearm? How did he do anything? Did he get the gun? Who did he have help? Could he have got the gun? How did he get so close? Did somebody assist him in any way? That is going to be the big question. And there's already people saying, hey, we were pointing this out to the police and Secret Service, And they all kept looking at us like, hey, there's the guy. There's a guy up there on the roof. And nobody was doing anything. And there's other reports saying the police looked like they were looking for somebody going through the building. So it's, the question is, was this just bad security planning? And like I said, the reason it has to be complete transparency was this an intentional security lapse on some part? We don't know. I hope it's not the case. Hopefully they were just negligent and should be fired for not planning accordingly. Or was it something much more nefarious? We will have to wait and see. Whoever's in charge of Secret Service is probably going to be Capitol Hill trying to explain what the heck happened. And of course, obviously, there's lots of other conspiracy theories going on out there right now, but we will have to wait and see. Let's see here. How does shooter climb on top of the building this close to the next United States president and fire off multiple shots with a rifle? We'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. Now, some people will say, and obviously the haters are already out there saying things. Oh, look, and then there's this lady. Some lady makes a comment, and Ashley Nurbovig, make America aim again. Wow, that's just not right. And then there's already people saying the president's statement. Apparently, people are criticizing his statement, saying that he needs to tell his followers to lower the temperature. I mean, the former president just got shot, for goodness sakes. People need to get for real here. Former Senator Claire McCaskill recently stated on TV that Trump is more dangerous than Hitler and Mussolini. So as you can see, both sides are engaged in the rhetoric, and it should stop on both sides. Obviously, people within the Secret Service are already saying, or people that had worked in the Secret Service, this is an obvious catastrophic failure, and no excuses should be made or even attempted. The failures are profound, and questions must be answered about the ground surveillance, air surveillance, post-standard support, and counter-sniper advance work and response. We have one job, and we came within inches of a deadly failure today. An uneventful failure is not a success. So, I mean, I think that's really the big story. Obviously, that the leading candidate for one of the political parties, obviously the Republican Party, was nearly assassinated today. There was an assassination attempt. We don't know the guy that did it yet, but we know that he killed one completely innocent bystander in the gallery, and one other person is critically wounded as well. And like I said, the second biggest story of the day is the complete failure of the Secret Service. Absolute, utter failure. We'll have to wait and see. Other people just making inappropriate comments like, didn't your mom ever tell you, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all? Now, sometimes, yes, you can have criticism, but when you're just being mean, you just need to stop it, right? You just need to stop it. And of course, all the nut jobs are out there saying, oh, we're so close. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting, ladies and gentlemen. Even if you don't like it, like the man, if you don't like the man, you don't call for his assassination. You don't say that's a good job. Rachel said, I think it was an inside job. One would have to wonder, how could there be so many catastrophic failures, unless somebody looked the other way. I don't know. Is it a Jeffrey Epstein type of catastrophic failure where we didn't keep those logs and somebody fell asleep at the wheel and we just don't know. Next thing you know, we wake up and we find that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Is that the kind of situation it is? Or is it just human error? Somebody got lazy. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. And like I said, heads should roll. Not literally, but figuratively. Somebody needs to be fired. Now, it's also being reported that the United States Secret Service, the director, Kim Cheadle, has repeatedly turned down requests for a large security footprint around President Trump, despite knowing the threat level is catastrophic. So people are already saying the director of the Secret Service should resign immediately. But they won't. They won't. They're going to say we did a good job. They didn't. They failed. They have one job: to make sure nobody attempts to assassinate the former president. So anyway, the question is, do we know who the shooter is? Apparently people are saying they have the guy. They know who he is generally, but they're not going to, I'm not going to say any names until we know for absolute certainty that was in fact him. I'm sure the FBI knows who this guy is. I am sure that they have already begun, if not already drafted, but executed search warrants as it relates to the residence, all of the social media that this guy had, probably detained family members, friends of him that were in contact with him. There's been some reports that maybe this guy actually put a video up onto YouTube and stated that he was, basically something big was coming. But like I said, I am of the mindset that the investigation needs to be obviously be thorough. It needs to be open to the public. We need to be able to see everything that was in that investigation, and not to hold something back because it's going to present future investigations. Well, it may be relevant in another investigation, but don't hide it. Like the Alec Baldwin thing. Well, maybe relevant, may not be. We just can't tell. Okay. Complete transparency. Let's see here. And of course, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the other day, before rallying, Trump must be stopped. He cannot be president. That's the kind of rhetoric where some idiots take it literally, and you can't do that. Some people are saying now's the time for sources inside our intelligence agency, law enforcement, to step forward. They said that people are saying, witnesses, that the shooter was crawling across the roof just outside the venue with a rifle in his hands. Eyewitnesses and his were screaming to the police for at least 2 to 3 minutes, they're saying. Now, it may seem like longer than 2 to 3 minutes, but the reality of it is they were pointing him out and nobody was responding. And of course, CNN, the most accurate news source out there, their headline was Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at a rally. I'm going to hope that was early on in what was taking place here, and we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, this is always funny. Somebody saying the elites pick the target. They let the street people do the violence, and then the elites provide the legal protection. I guess we'll have to wait and see if that is true. um, like I said, I don't think this guy acted alone. It's just my gut feeling. Seemed to be just a little too close. In my opinion, just got a little too close to the whole situation, and we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. And of course, the joke is there's a meme saying, "No one shoots at my vice president and gets away with it." Joe Biden said that. Let's see here. Now, there's a couple of different pictures going around of this guy. We don't know exactly who it is. Some people ID him as a pro-nuke, as a radical energy activist. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to mention any names until we know. Let me know what you think. Inside job, lone wolf. Let me know. We'll have to wait and see. They never reveal what happened. Well, I think in this case, Melissa, God, I hope they do. It needs to be there so people can have trust in their government. And if this was just a catastrophic failure through incompetence, we should know. If it was an inside job or a lone wolf, we should know. Billy Boy says it was clearly orchestrated. FBI can't find a laptop, let alone real evidence. Rachel says inside job. Real Justice says, I agree, Billy. Someone allowed him to get on that roof. That's the way it's going to have to be. Penelope, I mean, someone's have to explain that. Penelope, lone wolf. Wait and see. Rio says, not a lone wolf. I wouldn't be surprised if it was an inside job. Corruption is everywhere. I thought there were two shooters, but I could have misunderstood what was being said when it happened. Mel, as I understand it, a lot of people thought maybe there were two shooters, but more than likely what you heard was the shooter and then the snipers taking the shooter out. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I've heard different points, yards, feet. I've heard 400 feet, 150 yards. Do the math, I guess, 3 feet in a yard. VTP, STTU, waiting for the evidence either way. Me too. We're going to withhold judgment until we know what took place. Like I said, hopefully this is actually, hopefully this is actually investigated and we get to find out about it. Squeaky wheel. Oh, goody, the FBI and the DOJ are going to investigate this. Is that the same FBI and DOJ that refused to investigate massive voter fraud in 2020? Squeaky wheel, I noticed a little bit of sarcasm in your stuff. 150 meters is 400 feet. Thanks, Sally. A lone wolf who climbed on the rooftop with a rifle and spectators have to point him out. Really? No way. I know. Can you imagine? Hey, Secret Service guy. Hey, all you police surrounding this entire place. I think there's a guy up there with a rifle. I think that's unusual, but I'm just a lone spectator here, not highly trained police professional designated to protect the former president. No, take a look over there. And then the guy gets a shot fired off, and then he gets taken out. Should have been taken out beforehand, before he fired the shot. But, who knows what their rules of engagements were. How did he get there? Sending love to President Trump and the victims from Scotland. Well, thank you, True Crime Scotsman. Yeah, that's just, it's just not right. It's like third world kind of stuff. Let's see here. Amen, squeaky wheel. Let's see here. People are already saying FBI, DOJ, massive cover up. You don't. Um, Venus gal, you don't have to like someone to get to the point. You pick them because the economy was the best, etc. Just saying, my mom hates Trump, but she made a lot of money during those years. We didn't have cheap gas prices. I'm not going to lie about that. Okay. For somebody who has lots of cars and they have to fill them up a lot, drives a lot, it gets expensive, right? And it used to be like $2. It was like $4 the gallon, $4 the tank today to fill up. Uh, the Secret Service should smoke cigars. Oh, I think there's a little pucker factor going on at Secret Service right now. They're getting debriefed, like who was responsible for this? How did this happen? I thought it was kind of funny when you watch the video over and over and over again. They're like, all right, ready, go. And then nothing happens. They're like, okay, let's go. And then Fred's like, hey, can I get my shoe on here? And then he's pumping his fist like that. Um, my girl locked herself in a 7-Eleven with a girl she didn't know when someone was shooting up the store. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. Very upsetting, Lucia. Former president, potential candidate, are almost killed. I agree. Says here, real justice. If Trump had died, who would be the replacement on the ticket? I don't know how the answer to that would work. Have to wait and see. Let's see here. Yeah. It's ironic. He was talking about this chart that he had behind him about how the economy was so bad under him. Turned his head just a nick. I mean, seriously, if he had turned it this way, probably would have gone right into his temple. Usually those at rallies, if you shout or move from your seat, you get escorted by the Secret Service back. But this guy was allowed to get on a roof. It is a little odd, even though it was outside the perimeter. Secret Service saying this was outside the perimeter, but he just happened to be in an elevated position, looking down on the stage where the former president was making a campaign speech. A little odd that he could get up there. Absolutely catastrophic failure at the Secret Service. What will come of that? We don't know. Will somebody lose their job at a minimum? Will somebody be charged criminally for some sort of negligent dereliction of duty? I don't know. But there has to be complete transparency. Yep. Yeah, there's this video going around where it's BBC, where they're interviewing the guy saying there's shooters up there minutes before everything went down. We've talked about that. Yeah. Pickle Zero. How many people are going to go to bed tonight secretly disappointed? Oh, I'm sure there are going to be lots of them. There's already people that have already made lots of inappropriate comments. They're allowed to say them, but like I said, there's consequences of those actions. In the sense that people may say, I don't think I want to be your friend anymore. Hey, I don't think I want to follow your channel anymore. It's those types of things. There's consequences that come with that. Yep. Yeah. Trailer Trash Barbie. Yeah, I agree. The shooter was outside of the rally, but he had a good enough position where he could take aim at the actual stage where the former president was. So there you go. Lucia, he should have the best security there is. Secret Service say there is. Can you imagine if they didn't have him? He probably would, in fact, be dead. But it's the wrong protection. And if Homeland Security, Director of Secret Service, turned down the request that normally would have been granted, but because, maybe this person doesn't like Donald Trump because whether they're appointed by Joe Biden. Um, someone's going to have some explaining to do. That's for sure. Um, okay. Let's see if I can do this. Let me see if I can get the FBI briefing coming up. Let's see if I can do this here. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can get this to come up, ladies and gentlemen. We are trying our best here. All right. There's apparently going to be a briefing by the FBI. Let's see if we can make that happen. All right. I'm doing this. I'm doing this without Frank. Let's see if I can do this. Add. Nope. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. We're working on this. We're going to try our best here, ladies and gentlemen. It's so easy at the office. I did it by myself at the office. This is so difficult. Let's see here. That's not it. News layout. Okay, but I don't have any news to put in there. All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Let's see if we can see if there's going to be FBI identifies suspect as a 20-year-old man from Pennsylvania. Let's see if I can't report. FBI identifies a suspect as a 20-year-old man from Pennsylvania. So the question is going to be, what did they obviously they've been able to identify him, but what and why did he do such a thing? We'll have to wait and see here. Let's see here. Try to bring it to you live. Let's see here. Let's see what we can find. Okay, there's a picture going out about the dead guy. They got a picture of him. Looks like they got a headshot on him. Another eyewitness says that he told law officers there was a man on the roof climbing between multiple rooftops, and they did absolutely nothing to stop him until it was too late. Not good. Let's see here. A field director for a congressman, Benny G. Thompson, who was on the January 6th commission, recently proposed legislation to remove Secret Service, and he also said that he wished Donald Trump's attempted assassin, had better aim on social media. That's what we've come from to, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody's commenting that the shooter, had the Secret Service guys have a $12,000 rifle, and they couldn't take the guy out beforehand. Like I said, many people apparently spotted the person beforehand. Let's see here if we can't find the. Let's see here. If they're gonna have a news conference here, let's see if we can't get it. See, the bomb squad has been dispatched to investigate an abandoned van near the shooting site. Let's see if something has happened there as well. Apparently, shooter location, they're identifying that, the stage. how Trump was evacuated, and where the sniper teams were located. This looks like Park. It almost looks like an old airport or something, the way that kind of the roads go, but I guess it's not. But yeah, it's just very, very interesting indeed. Let's get back to your comments here. We got lots of comments here. Pure chaos in Pittsburgh right now. Independent thinker. I went to a rally in Virginia, and they had one SWAT tank before you got in. Let's see here. I'm not sure why it's not coming up. Let's see. Let's see here. The sarcasm of some people. It's interesting. What puts this in a 20-year-old kid to do this? I don't know. It's interesting, to say the least. But you know, most of those little people that want their 15 minutes of fame are young kids. And I don't get that. I don't get it at all. We'll have to wait and see here. Let's see what we can find out. Any moment, they're expecting a press conference, so we'll try to bring that to you. Let's see if I can do it. If not, I will give you a play-by-play as it comes about. Ooh, let me see this. No. Let's see if there's something else I can do here. Sorry, guys. I'm learning on the fly. Squeaky wheel, big question. Why was this guy allowed to get so close? Seriously. Hi, it's not real. Says it's what they're teaching in college. Hate and hate. I can't necessarily disagree with that. I remember when I went to college, I had a liberal arts degree. They taught you. They begged you. They're like, you know, remember a lot of these professors that I had when I was in college were, you know, the hippies from the 60s, and they were all like, question authority, man. Don't trust anything your government tells you. You know, question everything. But people don't do that now. It's just like, well, this is what they taught me. It must be true. Nobody teaches anybody how to do critical thinking, right? I mean, I'd like to think on our show, we don't tell people how to think. We tell, here's the information. You ultimately have to decide, you know, what's going on. Thank you, Grammy B. Appreciate you as always. Jonathan Scott, you should see how the liberal media is headlining this event. Loud pops scare Trump during rally and other such disgusting labels. Listen, I have given up on really any media whatsoever. One of the reasons why we started this channel was the Chris Watts trial. You know, it was not too far from us. Chris Watts' home was not far from my office. And what frustrated me so much about it was that the people on the evening news got it all wrong. They don't know the difference between a preliminary hearing and an arraignment. They had no idea what they were talking about. I was like, you know, maybe I can provide a little insight here. And that's how our channel began, trying to explain something. You're going to get a little more information than you are on, you know, the evening news that has a whole 30 seconds to go into a story that obviously has a lot more information that needs to be explored. And, you know, that's just the situation about it. So I don't really trust anything. I mean, and you can look to where you want to, but at the end of the day, you got to make your own decisions. Don't just follow one news organization. You should probably get it from both sides. And I think it's always interesting when you do look at both sides. It's like two different worlds. Just look at the situation with President Biden quite recently. People were shocked and surprised at how bad he was when he was at that debate. But yet, if you'd watch other channels, you're like, they've been talking about this for years. The White House is saying this is deep fakes. How dare you listen to that? It's fake news. It's misinformation. And then it turns out, oh, it wasn't misinformation. So either I was getting this correct source from one source, and the other side was completely gaslighting us, saying that we're ridiculous if we even believe any of that information. So you have to be very careful with the source that you get. We try to be as thorough as we can, and we give our opinion. We're not news, it's more commentary on the cases, but we try to explain the legal maneuverings in cases, what goes on, from the prosecution side, what's going on from the defense side, right? Everybody thinks, oh, evil defense attorney, how can we listen to you? I had lots of people say, man, you've explained the Constitution to me so well. I believe in it now. Most people haven't read it. We do our annual 4th of July Declaration of Independence. Obviously, no binding legal authority to anybody in government, but it certainly provides inspiration to our independence from the king. And so you got to always look at your own sources of information. Question even them. Say, really? I mean, come on, you guys are a little biased on both sides. Take a look at it. Do your own research. I appreciate when people say, Scott, I love your opinion. That's great. And so I've always said is, here's my opinion. It's based upon the information that we have. And like I have to do as a lawyer, I have to tell my clients, hey, we got some new information that you didn't tell me about. And this is bad. And so, my opinion has now changed. Instead of you have a great case to go to trial, now your case sucks. And we need to change our way, which is a good reason why you always need to be polite and professional to those other DAs, and don't always go in there and poke fingers in people's eyes. Yeah, you need to have that civility, because guess what? You may need to go back there someday with your hat in hand and say, can I please have that offer back? Right? You have to be things do there. I'm very appreciative of your unbiased delivery on info. Obviously, you have some political leanings, but you still give all the known info, not just a cherry-picked clip that gives one side. We try to do that. We try to be fair. We really, really do. Mel, probably the best statement, we've had in a long time. The United States Constitution is the most beautiful document I have ever read. And Mel is Canadian. I cannot disagree with you, Mel. That is probably my favorite comment of all time. The Constitution is a great document. I love it. I take a look at it almost every day in one capacity or another. As a lawyer that does criminal law, everything in criminal law is rooted in the United States Constitution. Can the government do this? Did they have the authority to search that? My client has a right to remain silent. They have a jury trial, right to confront and cross-examine the accused, right to subpoena witnesses. All comes from the Fifth Amendment, or all comes from the Constitution. We're talking obviously the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendment to the Constitution, which are the big ones in criminal law. Please show the guy who had the gun and repeated it. Let me see if I can find that. We're having some technical difficulties as far as being able to pull up the different source, but it's out there pretty readily available. It's from the BBC network, and the guy is explaining that that there were people on the roof, and they were pointing them out. We'll have to wait and see here if I can get that. Ooh, Representative Ronnie Jackson says that his nephew was shot during the assassination attempt. That's not good. We don't want everybody to get shot. We know one person was shot. We know the president was shot in the ear. Former president was shot in the ear. Another bystander was killed, apparently also hit in the head. And then another person that was in critical condition as well. I'm sorry I can't pull that up. I'm trying here. Um, okay, here. Give me 1 second. Let me go if I can do this. No, no, no. Like I said, I was having kind of a busy day. I was trying to do trial prep for a trial that starts on Monday, and really been going since the early morning hours and all day. Obviously, this broke as well. Let's see. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's see if I can get back to me. There's me. I should have called Frank. He could have helped me figure it out. Anyway, I apologize. It'll be out there. We'll try to bring it up. Oh, let's see what we can find out here from the briefing. Apparently, the audio is not working. I'll try to get this in a second here. Can't really hear that, can you? They're having some audio issues. They're asking anyone with information to report to the FBI. They're calling it an assassination attempt. The location is still a crime scene. Not prepared to identify the shooter. With that being said, also, we do not currently have an identified motive. No motive? I can bet that they didn't like the former president. At this time, I'm going to turn over the podium to Colonel Chris Harris with the Pennsylvania State Police. Pennsylvania State Police guy is going to step up and probably say the same thing. Thank you very much. My name is Chris Harris. Let's see here. Commissioner of Pennsylvania State Police. I would just like to say that the state police have been in regular contact with the governor's office and the full. Okay. They're devoting all the assets that are needed, and they're going to get whatever they need. But the FBI is still treating it as an active crime scene, and they're not prepared to identify who the shooter is as of yet. Okay. I got more people talking simply about the kind of stating the obvious. Ooh, they heard sounds or gunshots. Um, yeah, shooter wasn't carrying an ID. We knew that. And they are also stating that they're not prepared to identify the shooter as of this time until there's an absolute confirmation. Of course, calling for a speedy and thorough investigation. They're assisting the FBI. Standard law enforcement briefing stuff. They all stand back there in their uniforms or their collared shirts and say they're working on it tirelessly. But we have nothing new to report. Even though it's been several hours now, it's almost midnight in Butler, Pennsylvania. At least they're treating it as an attempted assassination. Some of the news organizations out there were saying, "Oh, he tripped and fell, and oh, he was being helped off the stage because he fell." Um, Now, I don't know if it was a bullet or a plexiglass from the teleprompter that hurt the president. But either way, he got hit with something and his ear was nicked, but he is going to survive. So we have that good news. Allegedly, they think 5 rounds was fired before shots were returned, and he was about 150 yards away. They're still doing their investigation. Like I said, they're all looking stiff-jawed. Here we go. Now they're going to ask questions that they're not going to be able to answer any questions to whatsoever. One shooter identified. They're not dismissing that there could be more people involved. So, typical police briefing. They have to do a briefing to say that they're thoroughly investigating. They're doing all of the resources. They're getting all the resources from everyone. But really, there's nothing we can tell you at this point because it's an ongoing investigation. And you'll have to wait because we don't know anything yet. We can't confirm who the shooter was. Obviously, things unfolded very quickly, and we are trying to recreate them. And if you have any information, please contact the FBI. Video is obviously going to be the best evidence here. People see different things from different perspectives. So the reality of it is the briefing is a whole lot of nothing. We'll see if anyone else is involved. That is going to be the big issue. Who else was involved? Who got this guy the gun? He's 20 years old. He can buy a gun. Who helped him? That's going to be the point. Who helped this kid? What motivated him? What were his political leanings? And who is going to be held accountable? The former president and the leading candidate for the Republican Party, who's supposed to start their convention next Monday, is nearly assassinated. Heads need to roll. People need to resign. People need to be fired. President Biden should be firing the head of the Secret Service if it turns out that requests were made for beefed up security for the president and the Secret Service, and the head of Homeland Security repeatedly turned that request down. Those requests, if that's true, they need to be fired. And that would be if it was somebody attempting to assassinate a former president, the current president. That's what should take place. Heads need to roll. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, nobody gets fired in government. Nobody. Maybe they'll resign, spend a little more time with their family, but nobody ever gets fired. So there you go. Let's see what else we got. The problem is there's no term limits for Congress. We need term limits. I correct. You're the only one live with the correct call. Was an attempt. The commander chief, you are the only one live with the correct. It was an attempt. It was an attempted assassination of the president. All these other people saying, oh, he was lucky. This guy just happened to be, he's out shooting prairie dogs or something, right? Oh, it just happened. No, this was an attempted assassination. And the guy's dead. The shooter's dead, assuming he's only the one there. Yeah, where can you do that? Judy wants to know, what? A 20-year-old able to buy a gun? Yes. You can buy a gun in most states. You should be able to when you're 18. Heck, I think most states allow you to go hunting when you're 14 or even 12, I do believe. That is not that surprising. This is America. You have a right to have a gun. You can go serve your country at 18. By God, you should be able to have a gun. Now, you still have to be a responsible person with it. And if you commit crime, guess what? And you have a gun, you need to go to prison. It's that simple. It is that simple, ladies and gentlemen. Now, hooly dooly, let's see here. The Secret Service deliberately left President underprotected to increase his vulnerability to nutter shooters. And Democrats had their fingers crossed. Well, I hope that's not the case, but this is the problem. This is why we need to have complete transparency to know what's going on here, to see what happened and why it was so screwed up. Jane, are we to trust the FBI investigation of the shooting if they filled with the same people who raided the residence a short time ago? We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. It is going to be on, clearly the president has had his, he's had his, what's the word I'm looking for? He's had his differences with the Department of Justice. We'll see if they can set those differences aside and do it. The Commander Chief. I agree. That's the title. We captioned this. We've been on there for over 2 hours. We said this was the attempted assassination. You're right. The target was the former president's head. And assuming it was a bullet, not a ricochet like some people are saying, I haven't heard or seen that, but we'll take people at their word. Yeah, he's not the president. He's the former president, Pickle Zero. I agree. And I've tried to say the former president, but he's also the leading nominee. And he's entitled to Secret Service protection, not only because he's former president, but because he is, in fact, the leading nominee. And, Robert F. Kennedy is also a nominee, and he's asked for Secret Service protection because they've received threats. And once again, the Secret Service and the Department of Homeland Security has denied that against him. Because apparently we're becoming a third world country, banana republic, whereby people will try to assassinate their political opponents. Or people that they disagree with, which is just wrong. We can agree, let the ideas go out there into the marketplace of ideas and let the best ideas prevail. It's kind of a capitalistic concept. That's right. I am a capitalist pig. All right. I believe in free markets. I believe in, a constitutional republic that we have. Right. A constitutional republic. There's a difference, ladies and gentlemen. Founding fathers specifically rejected a democracy. We have a constitutional republic where you have representatives go and supposedly represent their constituents' best interest. But when they get to Washington, they always seem to represent the big corporations and everybody else. So we'll have to wait and see. Election interference? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Certainly the shooter, who has been unidentified by the FBI at this point, clearly was trying to interfere with the election bid of the former president to become the next president of the United States. I agree. He is not the president yet. He is the former president. He is the nominee. I agree, Commander in Chief. I want to, Somebody said they wanted him to stay in a bulletproof booth, but he refused. Doesn't matter. We shouldn't have to, man. I mean, seriously. I mean, this was not. I mean, my guess is, you know, I was in the Marines a long, long time ago. I was a enlisted guy. I was an officer. But the reality of it is, I would guarantee you, any young infantryman could have probably set up a better perimeter and said, "Hey, these are the areas where we could perceive a possible threat. We should probably protect those." And then we have the Secret Service here who blew it, blew it. Um, no, no. Let's see here. Just watch the Trump's reaction. Such a legend, freaking hero, Rachel. Yeah, I mean, seriously, the man gets hit whether by a bullet. I'm assuming there's a bullet. That's what we seem to know. It's a custom to call a former president. It is. You can call a former president president. I totally agree. We're just trying to be as accurate as possible. He is the former president, and he may be the next president. But yes, it is not. Uh, you know, diplomatically, it's not uncommon to call somebody by their title that they held. Particularly, people retire in the military. They don't say, "Oh, you're the former general." You know, they'll say you're retired, but you still reserve. You get the respect of the rank that you held, and he was there. Miss Dean here, has Trump made a statement? Yes, he made a statement early on saying that he was okay, but that he was hit in the ear. His thanks went out to the Secret Service, and his condolences went out to the man that was killed and the other person that was injured as well. He made that statement, and then President Biden came out later to state that he was going to call the president. Apparently, President Biden has spoken with former President Trump, and then here's the BBC interview, and I've seen it, I watched it. A reporter interviewing the Trump supporter who tried to tell the Secret Service and the police there was a guy climbing a structure with a rifle, but apparently they didn't act that concerned. Now, obviously, Secret Service is going to have to respond to that. Ms. Dean, he played it off like an OG. I'm telling you, that picture of him where he's, you know, Pulitzer Prize right there. I've already seen people putting it on T-shirts. So we'll have to see. Yes, people saw the person on the building before the shooting started. Um, Apparently he did. Apparently they spoke. Scott, I don't think they would take it. I'm sure they did speak, regardless of their differences. Obviously, the president calls. President Biden calls former President Trump the greatest threat to democracy, and former President Trump calls Joe Biden the worst president in the history of America. So, but I'm sure they probably put their differences aside for a moment to make sure everybody was okay. Yeah, scary. It was inches, inches. Like I said, I remember as a kid watching the Reagan attempted assassination. I think it was in fourth or sixth grade. I'd have to do the math, but that was back in '81. And I remember watching it over and over again. Coming out of the hotel, some sort of event. James Brady, his press secretary, got shot in the head. Reagan got shot, and they had to do surgery. They rushed him away, and John Hinckley was charged with that, convicted, but found not guilty by reason of insanity. His blood looked rich and full of iron, not lacking in vitamins, very healthy. I couldn't tell you if that's accurate or not, but I'll take your word for it, Sally. Um, his children would be, nor are his children safe either. Now, let me tell you a little story. I love a good cigar. All right, I do. And I know a guy. He's a great guy. You see him on TV all the time. Have you ever seen that movie, 13 Hours, the Benghazi experience? The guy that's in there, his name is Oz. His name is Mark Geist. He lives here in Colorado. I've done many, many things with him. And years ago, he had an event, and it was at the Brown Palace Hotel, where just coincidentally I happened to have a box at the cigar lounge at Churchill's. Anyway, he invited me to this event and didn't know who was going to show up. It was a nonprofit that he was starting for Silent Warriors to benefit people like himself. He was injured, and they had to put him back on active duty so that he could get the medical treatment because he was all shot up in Benghazi. If you've ever seen that movie, 13 Hours, he's truly a hero, as everyone was in that particular situation, and they were basically left to die. And they survived. They came out of it. They killed hundreds of people attacking the embassy. Anyway, that night, his friend, Donald Trump Jr., showed up and had a cigar. And Donald Trump Jr., like his father, does not smoke or does not drink. He smokes cigars. And we sat around and had cigars with Donald Trump Jr., who is a huge gun enthusiast. And he tells very interesting stories. But he is a huge gun advocate, started shooting competitively in college. But I bring that up, but when he was there, it was funny because it was during the campaign. This is years and years ago, before the second election, 2020. Like, why are, kind of asked him, like, shouldn't you be like a campaign event or something somewhere? And he said, you know what? Mark has been a good friend of ours. He's a good friend of mine. And this event is important to him. And yeah, I could have been off at some event having some chicken dinner somewhere. But I'm here for Mark Geist, and we're going to sit and have a cigar. And hopefully, his nonprofit got off to a good success, a good start, which it did. So I was very impressed by Donald Trump Jr. that particular evening. He was a very humble, gracious man, and he had Secret Service protection. Now, I'm not sure you needed to worry about anything because that particular location probably had lots of people carrying concealed, I'm sure. But they were there because, yes, even the family members are in danger. And it's just something we should do to protect, obviously, at that time, the president and his family, but the former president and their family. Not like they need a whole entourage, but they should have somebody looking out for them, making sure somebody isn't trying to harm them, because there are, in fact, crazy people out there that could want to do that. No information is the identity, no information as it relates to their legal status. I'm assuming, from what I can tell, U.S. citizen, but we'll try to confirm that when we know better. Yeah, it would have been in sixth grade. Yep, sounds about right. I just remember being sent home early that day because the president had been shot. Didn't know what that meant, and for those who joined us or maybe don't recall, I remember President Reagan when he got shot. I would have been, like I said, sixth grade probably, as somebody let me know. And I just remember watching it over and over again. The president coming out, Hinckley shooting, Secret Service diving. I think a Secret Service agent took a shot to the gut. James Brady got shot in the head, unfortunately. He survived, but obviously was never the same again. He started the Brady Foundation for Brady handgun violence. And there's certain days you just remember. I remember that date. I'll remember this date. I was at the office. Somebody started texting me. Somebody's trying to shoot the former president. Okay. I'll remember 9/11. You just remember those days. I remember where I was when the space shuttle blew up. We were sitting in a class, and once again, we're there to watch the space shuttle. All of a sudden, it blew up. You just remember those type of things. So yeah, remember Mom crying with JSA. That was a few years before my time, but I remember my parents talking about that they knew exactly where they were. They knew exactly what was going on, and it just devastated everybody, even people that didn't like Kennedy. And the country was shocked. I mean, it the assassination of a president or a contender for president, that's just wrong. That's just wrong from any side, from any party. Um, so yeah, Squeaky wheel. If Biden called Trump to congratulate him on his being alive, trust me, it was an insincere. It was insincere as hell. Legally, I was a kid when Kennedy was shot, and here we are, still the same violent place. Wonder why? Well, I think a lot of it probably has to do with the. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've done criminal defense now for 29 years, ladies and gentlemen. I was a prosecutor when I was in the military for a brief period of time. And the difference about the military judicial system and the civilian world was, at least in the military, people had passed certain moral standards. You know, they graduated from high school, or they had a GED. They didn't have a criminal history. They, you know, kind of met the minimum screening requirements. And in the civilian world, um, it's just a different world. There's just no value for human life. People have no respect for the value of human life, and you can get into all the reasons of why that may have taken place or what it does. But the reality of it is I think society has just devalued it. There's a situation that anything goes, and that you can excuse or justify anything, and it's wrong. The communities used to shun people when they did bad things. The old scarlet letter, so to speak. But now you almost given a trophy, or you become Instagram famous if you do something horrible or say something disgusting. And so I think it's just more of a value system in America these days. For whatever reason, I don't know. Is it the demise, the fall of an empire, possibly an empire in decline? You can look back at the Romans and any other great empire. It's not like looking back, you couldn't see it coming, and we'll have to wait and see. Let's see here. I'm back. Let's see here, Julie. I'm back. Glad everybody's back. I had to brush your teeth after dinner. I appreciate that. That's funny. Yes. Um, let's see. Please don't put USA morality onto the rest of the world, please. Lee here. I'm not putting U.S. morality. U.S. morality, we're not exactly great at it. I wouldn't put it on the rest of the world at all. I just think there's a general decline in people that respect the law, respect other people, and respect the value of human life. I've represented cases where people have stabbed and killed people simply for disrespecting them over, using the microwave. Some crazy stories, stuff you couldn't make it up. It's that crazy and ridiculous, and people there's just doesn't seem as there's as much respect for human life or for the fear of punishment. And that's coming from a criminal defense attorney, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen it for a long time, and I've seen it for a long time, and the reality of it is that um, it's a simple fix, so to speak. People need to be punished. People don't need to be enabled for their poor behavior. Um, I've seen it a lot, right? Not far from where I live, our mayor decided it was a good idea to buy hotels and put homeless people in there. And the reality of it is um, my office actually has a case over there, and you hear the facts, and you're like, what is going on over there? I can tell what's going on over there. A lot of drugs, a lot of sex, and not a whole lot of work going on because they don't have to. Everything's taken care of for them. I really think if maybe these people had to work a little bit, they'd get a little more motivated to decide if doing drugs and breaking the law is really the way they want to spend the rest of their life, or they want to go to prison for it. So there you go. Um, why the lack of, let's see here, for human life? Devastating, yes. See, I don't know why. I don't know. I think it's just we were in a world where anything goes these days. ignoring that this trend of violence is not higher in the USA is crazy. USA puts self over community. I can't necessarily disagree with that. I cannot. Um, no one cares for the mental health issues before the issues from the pandemic. Ah, there was certainly less talk of mental health issues um, before the pandemic. I have said as a criminal defense attorney, a good percentage of clients in the criminal defense world, not just clients of mine. So I represent some very good people that have done, just had um, done some stupid things. I represent pure evil as well. But the reality of it is that um, a great percentage of people in the criminal justice system have mental health issues. A lot of it goes undiagnosed, and then a lot of the people self-medicate through drugs and alcohol. And so, you got to solve the root issue, right? You get clients, they're on, well, why'd you do what you didn't do? Why'd you do what you're accused of doing? I don't know. I wasn't on my meds. Well, why'd you start taking the meds? Well, I don't like the meds. They make me tired. They make my mouth dry. And I felt better, so I didn't think I needed the meds anymore. Well, you feel better because you had the meds, or why'd you stop taking the meds? I didn't have the money to buy the meds, and society has a look at it. We can get this person meds for less than $50 a month, or we can let them go out and commit crime when they want to stay on their meds, and then we house them in a facility for $30,000 a year. Let's see here. The command chief. After all, everyone here is shocked, right? I'm over 60 and I've never seen anything like it in Orilla. A shot fired hundreds of meters away. Please. Um, I'm shocked that they didn't see the guy. I'm shocked that somebody didn't plan for that. I'm shocked that they didn't have somebody right there, maybe on one of those roofs. Somebody from there, like the Secret Service there. Rachel, good night. If I ever need a lawyer, I hope that you are as fraction as good as you are. Well, who knows? Oh, it's pronounced ears, the command chief tells me. Sorry. Sorry there, the commander chief. But yeah, all right. So we know the shooting suspect is a man in his early 20s. That's as far as the FBI is willing to go this evening. And we know that he's dead, but they don't know anything about it. Apparently, they were investigating a van that maybe had some explosives or something along those lines. They were sending a bomb squad in to check out a suspicious vehicle. But at least the FBI is stating facts as facts. It was, in fact, an attempted assassination attempt. Yes, it's not something where President Trump fell. The other news organizations were stating that the president fell and they had to move him off the thing, and no one wanted to say it was an attempted assassination, and it clearly was. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, ladies and gentlemen. Someone tried to kill former President Trump, and Ms. Dean, you want to become a member? You can do that, but you can watch the lives. They'll be posted live after we go down. They'll go back up. The shooter, yeah, 20. He's a boy. Yeah, but hey, he's an adult. And had he been alive and not shot by the Secret Service, he should be prosecuted for the attempted murder of a former president. And he should have been prosecuted for the murder of the innocent civilian that was there, apparently shot in the head, and as well as the other individual that was shot and critically injured. So, not good at all. Uh, Ah, the media has been saying that Trump was Hitler. Incitement? Well, the rhetoric has been pretty strong on both sides. The rhetoric's been pretty strong on both sides, and everybody should tone down the rhetoric just a little bit. Everybody needs to treat everybody with dignity and respect. Yes, you can call people, they'll be a terrible president. They are a terrible president. But it doesn't give anybody the right to go attempt to assassinate anybody. Jen Lowe says the victim was a veteran. That's tragic. The man could serve his country. I don't know if he was served in combat or anything like that, but to be shot at a political rally, it's disgusting. And I just hope that this is a thorough investigation by the FBI. I hope that it's open and transparent so that we can know exactly what went wrong, why this was allowed to have taken place, make sure it never happens again, and we should be allowed to know everything about this guy. Enough of this privacy stuff for criminals. We should be allowed to know what went on. What did he say? Who did he say it? None of this, oh, we're going to respect his privacy. Oh, we can't release his manifestos if he has one. No, we should be allowed to see it all. No, there were not two secret, Sally. Three shooters, weren't two Secret Service. No, the Secret Service was not shooting in the crowd, as I understand it. They were shooting back at the guy on the roof. Let's see here. Lily, I don't think Americans have any idea how the rest of the world sees them as violent Bible bashers with guns and no education. Just saying. Lee here, I get it. I get it. I know that some people don't like Americans. I get it. We've done lots of things that have upset lots of people. I get it. Yes, some people are violent. Bible bashers with guns. I don't know. We do like our guns here. I'm not going to lie about that. And no education. Well, kind of goes back to society, right? America used to have one of the best educational systems in the world, and now I think we're 24th, if I recall that number correctly. We do like our guns here, Lee. Here we do, and hey, I know lots of people with guns. I myself have lots of guns. Never had an incident with a gun. Responsible gun owner with a gun. I represent lots of criminals that have guns, and 99% of them shouldn't have guns, but yet they get them because they ignore the law. And so, I don't know what to tell you. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, kind of just the whole morality of America. Let's see here. Pixie says, "Hey, I'm from." Sorry, where did Pixie is going by so fast? I'm from Australia, but I like Americans. So yeah. Let me see here. So I like America. I mean, I've traveled. I haven't been to Australia. That's one of the places I would like to go. I've been to Asia. I've been to Europe. Been to Central America. It's sorry. You know, I like people from all over the world, and I understand why some people don't like us. Uh, but You know, I think we have a lot more freedom than lots of places, and we should. Frankly, it's being limited, but freedom is good, and I would rather have freedom than security. That's for sure. Jenlo Musco, thank you for all your help. Being a great mod, appreciate it. Thank you very much. The Commander Chief, if a conspiracy of some kind, left-wing activism is confirmed, things are going to stink. I hope that's not the case. I hope this was only one guy, but if it goes deeper, the facts need to be followed to wherever they may lead. If this was some sort of organized event, attempt on the life of former President Donald Trump, if there was somebody that helped or participated, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And what it also comes down to is, whoever's in charge of that Secret Service detail, at a minimum, they should be fired. Vicky, my family is Cherokee. We were here before. They turned this place. Yeah, well, I mean, I, Vicky, I get it. Um, uh, I don't know what else to say. America, we've done some good things. We've got some things, black, ugly skeletons in our closet as well. And, what can I say? Nobody's perfect. Obviously, it was a different time, but clearly we did not treat the Native American Indians as well as we should have, for whatever that's worth. Let's see. Let's see here. Squeaky wheel. I learned a lot of stuff tonight, but what most surprised me the most is that Scott Reich's dad was a hardcore Democrat. I can excuse it though. The Democrats were a lot different back then than they are now. It's funny because my dad, he worked in the auto industry, worked for Chrysler for 35 years, I think. Still alive, still Democrat. And, but he was, back then it was protect American jobs, um, cheap imports, bad, protect, he was a union guy. He was an American union guy, U.S. union guy, hardcore. He was on the local union. Um, he was told who to vote for, and he did that. I'd be curious. I don't know what he'll do in these elections. We'll have to wait and see. All right, let's see here. I don't think Gene. I don't think the person's going to be an undocumented immigrant. He looks. I don't know. You can never tell. You can never ever tell for sure. I had a case once. You always have to do immigration advisements because if you're convicted of certain crimes and you're not a citizen of the United States, you can be deported. I had a guy once going through everything and not sure why we didn't realize it, but I'm like, "You're a U.S. citizen, right?" And he looked at me and goes, "No, I'm from Canada." Changed everything. We had to make sure we had a plea that wasn't going to get him deported. It's you just never know, but I don't think so from what we can tell from early indications. Pixie, a little sarcasm there, a little cynicism. I don't think the government is transparent. No, they're not. And I think it's become quite apparent, if it hasn't already over the years, that I don't know if, wait for it. Hold yourself, brace yourself, sit down for this. You may not believe it, but your government lies to you. Okay? Think about it. Vietnam War, the start of it, the Gulf of Tonkin, weapons of mass destruction, um, you know, killing people with drones, Fast and Furious, um, president's completely in charge of his faculties, right? The government lies to you. Local government, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't be alarmed. Don't don't worry about it. They lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. They think that we are all a bunch of idiots. And even though, maybe some of us are, but the reality of it is that's a beautiful thing. Like we talk about on Crime Talk is a jury. It's one of the greatest, inventions ever. That you get 12 random citizens to hear a case, and for the most part, if you get on a jury, for the most part, you're smart. You can figure things out, and they know when they're being BS'd, particularly if they're a little skeptical. You should be skeptical of anyone, particularly the government, right? Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. The United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments, right? The First Amendment, the government shall make no law infringing freedom of speech, press, religion. Second Amendment, can't take our guns. Third Amendment, can't quarter troops in there. Fourth Amendment, can't search you, without a warrant. Fifth Amendment, right to remain silent, due process of law. Sixth Amendment, right to counsel, right to a trial. Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. All limitations on the federal government, obviously incorporated to the states under the 14th Amendment. But it's limitations on the government. That wasn't because the founding fathers trusted people in government. No, they studied the world before that. Remember, the United States was a huge, huge experiment. We're going to give the power to the people, right? A constitutional republic. We're going to send representatives. We're going to have a president. Washington said, I'm not going to be a king. They offered it to him. I don't want to do it. And it's worked pretty darn well. But it's not because they trusted people in power. No, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, is limitations on the government because they knew that people in power would get in there and loot the treasury and enrich their friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's nothing new. This has all gone on. These people had studied history. They had looked around the world. And what does every dictator do when they don't like what the people are doing? Well, they shut down the press, criticizing them. They don't let them go to the church because they're criticizing the people in power, right? They prohibit what people can say. They censor them. Then they want to take away their guns, right? Because if you have people that are going to, you don't want to be overthrown by somebody, you got to take away their weapons. They said they can't do that here, right? The Fourth Amendment, the king used to come in and say, hey, I heard you said some bad things about the king. We're going to look through your place. We're not sure what we're looking for, but we'll know it when we'll see it. And we're going to, probably arrest you. Maybe we'll throw you in jail. Not going to give you a trial. Not going to tell you what you're charged with. All those things that the founding fathers put in the Constitution are all the things that every dictator and every king had done before them. And they said, we are not going to allow this. And yet people today think, well, what have I got to hide? Let them search my stuff. No, even if you're absolutely innocent, no, don't do it. Right? Are there some good people in government? Yes. But are there some bad people? Yes. And it's usually the bad people that stick around and stay. And nobody in the government gets up and says, you know what? How can we give the people more freedom today? Everyone in the government gets up and says, we can try to turn that unreasonable search and seizure into a reasonable, so it fits under that. And oftentimes you get judges that go along with it too, because, well, they're the government. Be skeptical of them, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that's my opinion. That's me, criminal defense lawyer, right? Somebody asked earlier, have you ever dealt with corrupt government people and corrupt prosecutors? Yes, I have. It is a reality, ladies and gentlemen. We like not to think about such things, but it is in fact the reality of the world. Think about it. The founding fathers didn't trust people in government, and nor should you. Trust, but verify. And if they're lying to you, get them out. The Commander-in-Chief impression that will still be reported about this event, and there are many questions still in the air. I completely agree. I completely agree. Women on Women of Steel. Look at the Alec Baldwin case. Listen. I thought Alec Baldwin's defense that the gun just went off was total BS. We explained it on various videos. I have a very similar firearm that would have been used. There's no way that that gun would have just gone off. It didn't happen. But the judge in the Alec Baldwin case made the correct decision. The government lied. They conspired. Those prosecutors, at a minimum, they may want to have a conversation with some legal counsel about protecting their law license. They may also want to contact a criminal defense lawyer about, conspiring to basically violate somebody's constitutional rights. Mr. Baldwin may have a pretty good lawsuit against those individuals individually, as collectively as well, as it relates to them basically hiding and attempting to conceal evidence. And we brought it to you live. We were there. I came on right at the end when the judge dismissed the case, but I was watching it, and she was going to do something. I wasn't sure she was going to dismiss the case, but when the prosecutor got up there and lied and said, "Well, we didn't really think it was relevant," blah blah blah, but she put it under a completely different case number so the defense attorneys wouldn't get access or knowledge to it. And then she came up with some lame excuse that, "Oh, there was an error in the office. We made a mistake." Blah blah blah. No, you lied. You prosecuted a man, and if you turned it over, it may have had nothing to do with the case, but you lied about it, and the case was dismissed, and the judge did the right thing. I can only imagine how many people the prosecutor. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen, it happens. It's not the first time it's happened. The case law about all the good faith, bad faith stuff where people hide evidence. Think about all the people that have been released from prison where they've been wrongfully convicted. You can't say it was defense attorneys been ineffective if they didn't know something was there. It's usually a piece of paper that shows up in a file that somebody died, left the office, didn't think that anyone else had a copy of it, and it comes out that they withheld evidence. Those people should be prosecuted, ladies and gentlemen. Thank God, though, it came out during the trial and not years afterwards after somebody was maybe convicted and maybe went to prison. That's the beautiful thing about the adversarial system, ladies and gentlemen. Now we'll have to see whether law enforcement, if they protect their own. They lied to get Alec Baldwin. And like I said, I was no fan of Alec Baldwin. I thought his statements and theory that the gun just went off was complete and utter nonsense. But the man deserves a right to a fair trial, and he deserves a right to have his all the evidence presented to him under due process rights. The question everyone is asking is, if the sniper was on the rooftop and the counter sniper had a view, why did they wait for him to shoot? They're trained to see all rooftops. They should have been on that. I agree. I mean, those guys all have microphones. They have earpieces. People are listening in. Totally agree. This is a complete and utter failure by the Secret Service. Somebody needs to, lose their job. Whoever was in charge of that detail needs to lose their job. Whoever, the lady that's in charge of the Secret Service, the director of the Secret Service, should lose their job, particularly if it's found out that the security detail for former President Trump said, we need more resources because of the threats that we believe are real. They should lose their job. Resign. If not, President Biden should fire them first thing tomorrow morning. And I mean that. To say, hey, this is unacceptable. I may not like Donald Trump, President Biden can say, but he has every right to campaign and be safe. And somebody failed, and we want a free, fair election at the ballot box, and we're not going to allow our opponents to be assassinated or attempted to be assassinated. And like I said, heads should roll. We'll see if that actually happens. I will bet you, the biggest stake around, it probably won't. But if I were Biden's staff, I would tell him, fire people in charge. Fire them all. Relieve them of their duty. Mel, I don't know. Something went terribly, terribly wrong. We need to find out the truth. Was it, like I said, an inside job? Somebody said, oh, don't worry about it. I got that. Or was it just incompetence? We'll have to wait and see. Sally, why can't you do speeches in protected space? He shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to. He's the president of the United States. He should, or former president of the United States, campaigning to be the next president of the United States. Just like our president, right now, Biden, should be allowed to campaign and be safe as well. And if they want to be out amongst the people, by God, they should be safe. Yes, there's always a risk, but do we really need him driving around or standing in like the Pope Mobile? Remember, after I think it was Pope John Paul was shot, he had the Pope Mobile where he rode around in the glass with protective glass. Yeah, I don't know. Why can't he do it? I don't know. He shouldn't have to. He's still our president. We should be people should have access to him. And we need to get rid of the people that are going to go out there and commit these crimes before they can actually do it. Or at least we have a good idea. Let's watch him. Let's watch him. Vicky, he didn't mind people having guns, but you notice all the guys that came out, ladies and gentlemen, all those Secret Service people, they were getting around there, huddling up underneath over the former president. They were putting their guns back in there. And then the guys came out with their AR-15s as well. Only way you stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Now I don't know why that guy, how he got the gun. I don't know what the circumstances are, but the reality of it is that the problem is not the guns. Problem is not the guns. The problem is the people behind the guns. What motivates them? What, and obviously we don't want people to have mental health issues, but you can't go away taking away people's guns. It's a fundamental constitutional right. If you don't like guns, don't have a gun, right? You shouldn't impose what you desire against everybody. The rules of the game have been set. It's called the United States Constitution. If people don't like it, if they want to change it, like I said, it's a fundamental constitutional right. There's a way to amend the Constitution. There's processes to do that, but yet nobody has been willing to make such an amendment because I don't think it would pass, and everybody realizes that. There are hundreds of millions of guns in the United States. I think 50% of Americans have not just one gun, but multiple guns. Okay? Because we're permitted to do that. If somebody like me considers himself perhaps a collector of firearms, and I've never harmed a single person with my firearms, why should my rights be taken away? One of the fundamental things, obviously, in our legal system is that the government's job is to protect my rights, right? Constitution, Bill of Rights, government's job is to protect our individual rights. I get to exercise my rights. The government's job is to protect me so that others don't violate my rights. And if those people violate my rights, they assault me, they shoot me, they steal my property, then they need to be prosecuted. But you don't take away law-abiding citizens' rights just because you don't like something. One could say, well, there's too many accidents. Let's ban people from driving. Well, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. That's ridiculous. And like I said, the rules of the game have been set. If you don't like the rules of the game, you got to change it. There's a way to amend the Constitution. If you think you can do it, go for it. Vicky, I'm not voting for either one. So whatever it will be. Okay,
Canadian bacon waving out the sunroof. What have guns ever done? Nothing. Well, Joel, well, they stopped a bad guy today. They probably would have fired more rounds, killed more innocent people, potentially assassinated the former president. But a good guy with a gun took him out. So I'd say that was pretty good thing with a gun. You don't hear about all the circumstances where guns have prevented things taking place. It doesn't really make the mainstream narrative, guns good. No, it's always guns bad, guns bad. Yep, I agree. The commander chief. A lot of questions, and they need to be complete transparency so that we can know exactly what took place. Mel, campaigners are supposed to shake babies and kiss hands, or shake hands and kiss babies. Sorry, can't do that from the Presmobile. Never heard roof pronounced roof. Did I say roof? Objection hearsay? I don't know. It's possible. I am partaking of this fine cigar this evening. A Davidoff. Devil's advocate. I think it's possible that the Secret Service thought the guy on the other roof was one of them. Turns out he wasn't. Confusion, comm problems, maybe. I don't know. Somebody failed. Incompetence or inside job? That's the question. Going back to Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin didn't know the gun was loaded, but he cocked the gun and pointed it at Helena, and the gun went off while he was holding it. Going to prison wouldn't have solved anything. Well, Jen B, I don't necessarily disagree with you. It was a horrible situation. One could say an accident. I really don't think that Alec Baldwin would have fired the gun if he thought that there was a round in the chamber. Was he perhaps negligent in not knowing that the round was in the chamber? Yes. Now, people had told him that it had been cleared. It was a cold gun. So he probably felt comfortable doing that. I have a real problem on the whole negligence standard in criminal law. We've talked about this before. In criminal law, the mens rea, the government has to prove the mens rea. What was your thinking at the time that you were knowingly, intentionally doing something? You knew what you were doing, practically certain to cause the result that you were intending, whether you failed or succeeded or not. Negligence is a civil standard, right? When people sue somebody for slip and fall, for torts, it's a negligence standard. It's a reasonable man standard. So, you don't shovel your walk, somebody slips, it's reasonably foreseeable if you don't shovel your walks. There's ice that gets on them, and people slip and fall, right? Your remedy is with the homeowner who did not shovel his walks. They should not be criminally prosecuted for not shoveling their walks. They run the risk of being sued. That it could potentially exceed what their homeowner's insurance will pay. So when you start taking a reasonable man standard and applying it to criminal law, it's a dangerous, dangerous territory, ladies and gentlemen. It's well, you should have known. You should have known better. No, it's wrong. And it's starting to get some traction, even at the Supreme Court. Justice Gorsuch has said that he's got a real problem with a reasonable man standard in criminal law, as do I. I've had that problem for years. But these types of things take time, and it takes time for the courts to catch up sometime. Judy, you gotta be hardcore in these times. Yeah, it's a dangerous world out there, man. If people knew all the stuff that went on in the world, I swear to God, they wouldn't come out of their homes. It is a scary world. You only hear just a scraping of it on your evening news or in the newspaper. And I think that's why the true crime genre is so big, is that it's fascinating to people, and obviously the psychology of the people that do this. People have always done horrible things to other people throughout their lives, but you'd like to think, hey, we're a civilized society. How can people be so cruel to other people? And they are. They are. Michael, Gavin Newsom sucks, but he's the only person proposing a new constitutional amendment. I don't agree with it, but that's the proper way. That's what I mean. The Second Amendment is pretty darn clear. But there's a way to change the Constitution. We've amended it many, many times. I think we're at the 25th, and then you got possibly the Equal Rights Amendment that never was ratified, so it really didn't become an amendment. But yeah, there's a way to, we've amended the Constitution. We have amended it, right? We had prohibition, and we changed it. The Constitution, the protected rights only applied to the federal government. The 14th Amendment, we made those applicable to the states as well, to make sure that everybody is protected and has all the protections of the Constitution as well as the rights that come with it, ladies and gentlemen. What about your right to be safe from guns? Well, that goes back to the whole situation of there's a way if you don't like guns, then people should change the Constitution. But as of right now, there's going to be. My advice would be, obviously, my advice, what I tell lots of people is you have to be protected yourself. You need to be aware of your circumstances. And yes, you cannot predict everything else in the world, but you should not fear guns. It's always interesting. Years ago, we did a Christmas party at the office, and I had several attorneys. Some of them are still with me, some are not. And I said, we're going to go to a gun range for Christmas. That was going to be our Christmas party. We're going to go to the shooting range. So we got our guns, we got handguns, we got rifles, we got shotguns. And these individuals who had never fired a gun, and usually it was because their wife said, you can't have a gun in the house, had a blast. And they were like, wow, I'd like to get one. And some of them never fired a weapon, and they were terrified. Like, oh my gosh, they're like, oh, that's not that bad. That's right, but you got to be smart about it. You need to have training. In this world, in this day and age, ladies and gentlemen, if you think the government is going to be able to protect you from the bad guys, you are so naive. You have to be able to take care of yourself. Bottom line, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And whether you get yourself a taser or a bear spray or a gun, be trained, be prepared, be aware of your circumstances. And if somebody attacks you, you fight like hell. You fight like hell. I'm telling you, I've done criminal defense for 29 years, ladies and gentlemen. I've asked a lot of people, what were you thinking? Why did you pick this house? Why did you pick this victim? And usually it's a crime of opportunity. And usually it is because they think the victim that they're going after is weak, that they're not going to fight back, that they're not going to shoot back at them. Okay? One of the worst cases I ever handled. Horrific assault of a woman of a sexual nature. The guy had been paroled one day, got released from prison. Cop's an attitude with his parole officer sends him home. He jumps on the bus heading back to home. He sees a young woman with her hands full. He pulls the little rope on the bus, stops, gets off, follows this young woman into her apartment building, follows her to her apartment. Instead of dropping everything and running and fighting like hell, and I'm not blaming her, he pushes his way in there and he sexually assaults her. Horrific. And she calls her friend and says, I've just been assaulted. Friend calls the police, and the 911 call, most horrific thing you've ever heard. Her saying, don't call the police. He knows where I live. He said he'll come back and kill me. And I don't blame that woman at all. She did what she was forced to do. That particular client was a horrible human being and is spending the rest of his life in prison. But he picked her out because he thought that she was weak, wasn't aware of her circumstances, and he knew she wasn't going to fight back. You're naive if you think that the government is going to protect you. You have a right, a God-given right, natural right, whatever you want to call it, to protect yourself. And you have to be prepared to do it, because by the time you call the police, they're going to be there to put the chalk lines around you, start taking the photographs. That's it. Michael, Scotland, they want to decrease speeds. I don't know. Does Germany have a higher accident rate on their Autobahn? I don't know. My guess is probably not. Drive as fast as you want, basically, right? I'm sure there's speed limits throughout the place. I should ask my son. He's stationed there. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. It's the old thing. If it would save just one life, wouldn't it be worth it? Right? If it would save just one life, wouldn't it be worth it? And my position is no, it would not be. I would rather have freedom. The old adage, those who would be willing to give up their freedom for security deserve neither. We'll have to wait and see. The Commander Chief. Don't recall interacting with the Commander Chief before on any of the shows, but I appreciate his comments, and he's way right here on the attempted assassination of former President Trump. We may all be wrong. The media works with images. One thing is certain, just like in Kennedy's case, the issue of a shot coming from a high point. He is never alone. He had help from someone to be, assuming to be there. Yep. We don't know. We don't like to speculate. We can sit and speculate all day long, but we need to know facts. That's why there has to be transparency in this investigation for the people to know what took place. Somebody tried to assassinate a former president. We need to make sure it doesn't happen again for any future president or any candidate for presidency. Right? Jack Kennedy, assassinated in LA by Sirhan Sirhan, 68, I do believe, running for president, the brother of JFK, John F. Kennedy. So it needs to be, transparency, so know what went on. Duckin, I'm not even going to pronounce the last name, I'll mess it up, is the only way to get a license to carry a firearm in Colorado to go apply at the sheriff's office. I don't like cops. I'd have a panic attack. Yes, there's still some places you can open carry in Colorado. I wouldn't advise doing it in the metro area. You would more than likely receive some added attention that you probably don't want. But yes, it's not that difficult to go get a concealed carry permit. You take a class. They usually have, you take a class. It's a one-day thing. Make sure you should do it. I would say if you've never had a firearm, you should get a little more extensive training than what's required for a concealed carry permit. You go there, feel comfortable with the weapon, and then you have to train with it even after that. You should. You're not required to, but you should. You've passed the background check. Pretty straightforward. Most jurisdictions will do that. Denver is a little more difficult. Why? The powers that be in Denver hate the Constitution, and they will make it as difficult as possible to get a concealed carry permit. And of course, our legislature tried to restrict that even more because they think they can. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, the people in Colorado, when I grew up in Colorado, I grew up in a blue collar working family. I think I said earlier, my dad was a hardcore union guy on the local union. My mother was a secretary, but she was a hardcore union person, Democrat, always voted Democrat to her death. And, now the state is completely blue. Everyone moved in from Colorado or from California to Colorado. And, the state has gone to a hell in a handbasket. And, I would love to depart the state, but this is where my law practice is. And even though we have Crime Talk 1 that's been in the shop now for 4 months and probably at least another 45 days till we get it back due to some landing gear having to be, I would love to be able to commute back and forth. I think I have a place down in South Carolina that I love. I would love to be able to commute back and forth. Unfortunately, South Carolina does not have reciprocity. Otherwise, I would get my law license down there. I've had some federal cases down there, but I don't want to sit for another bar exam. And not to mention how our homeless problem and drugs has completely ruined the neighborhood. And I mean, like I said, we live in an area here. All the homes are, if not $1 million, very close to $1 million and over. And yet, less than a mile and a half away, we have a high concentration of homeless people because the government decided to buy hotel rooms or buy hotels to put people in at a paltry $28,000 per year to house somebody to make sure that they have a room over their head, right? Because isn't everybody entitled to housing? I don't know. I agree in helping people out, but you cannot enable them if they have problems that they need to fix. Okay, Pickle, I do protect myself. Good, good, good. Michael Freeman, I've been saying roof a long time. I noticed that I think most Western accents, people say that. I always say roof. Is it roof? He's on the roof. Does it sound like R-U-F-F or R-O-O-F? I think it's R-O-O-F. That's what I'm pronouncing. Let's see here. I just wanted to, so that'll be good. I was just returning a rental car at Chicago O'Hare and was threatened and chased by a homeless woman known to be crazy but harmless, according to Chicago PD. She threatened to kill me. And the Chicago police says, no big deal. Yeah, that's wrong. Chicago. I was in Chicago for over the 4th of July holiday, and we were waiting for our Uber to pick us up, the lovely Miss Krista and I, and there was a police officer there at Chicago O'Hare, asked a gentleman who was picking up his family to get out of the lane and actually pull in, and the two got into it. The guy was somehow upset that the police officer asked him to get out of moving traffic. I thought that was going to go to blows. I'm literally speaking to the lovely Miss Kristen, and I said, let it go. Just let it go. Now, it was crazy. They were taking pictures. They were yelling at each other. Unfortunately, I think the man that refused to follow the police orders in that particular situation was completely out of line, and he looked ridiculous, and he completely embarrassed his family the entire time. The police officer just wanted him to pull in to load the family up and get out of traffic. I thought it was a more than reasonable request. Squeaky wheel. Donald Trump will be protected to the level of absurdity until he's reelected. We'll see. She was crazy, and they refused to take my complaint. It's a new world, we don't prosecute people for stealing. We don't prosecute people for breaking into people's homes and stealing their things. And even then, if she had done something horrible to you, she threatened to kill you, for God's sake, that is a threat. She should have been arrested. If I was in charge, she would be arrested. But guess what? I'm not in charge. Is that allowed? Unfortunately, I think they can. They're going to say, oh, we're so busy. Nothing's going to happen to her anyway, so just move along. But of course, it encourages such behavior. Maybe she needs meds. Maybe she needs some mental health treatment. Maybe that would be the good thing about putting her in jail. I remember there used to be a docket. They called it the General Sessions docket. They called it the Nuts and Sluts docket. I know somebody will be offended by that, but that's what they called it. Because it was usually people that had mental health issues that got arrested for doing stupid stuff. And it was all the prostitutes that got arrested. And, I remember seeing a judge one day saying, he'd seen this guy, he's a frequent flyer. And the judge said, hey, what we're going to do here is I'm going to impose a sentence. You pled guilty. I'm going to impose a sentence of 3 days, give you a chance to get a couple of clean showers, get cleaned up, and get some hot meals in you. Everybody knew what was going on. We all knew he was going to be back. But, maybe at some point, maybe a couple of days of sobriety would have helped him. Let's see here. It's just Pickle. It just sucks having to live like that. Freedom to feel free seems to be long gone. I can't disagree. It's scary. The lovely Miss Kristen and I, we go for a walk. Take the Miss Winnie the Bulldog for a walk. There's been several occasions that we felt uneasy. And the lovely Miss Kristen has even asked, do we have some sort of protection with us? Right? You got to be able to take care of yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. You can't, other than, you know who the bad guys are, right? You know who the bad guys are. You got to watch the bad guys. Now, another little dirty secret of the legal system that you aren't going to hear from anybody. But since we're talking freely this evening, right? It's always funny. You have a client that comes in and says, the police officers, they profiled me and they pulled me over. And they, of course, found guns and drugs on you. And, I understand they probably did profile you, but unfortunately, they came up with some legitimate reason to make contact with you. And of course, they found guns and drugs. What police officers will tell you is that profiling works. Now, it's wrong, particularly if the police are wrong. But it comes to, like in this question, national security issues. You know who the bad guys are, but why are you not watching them? Let's see. Mel, that's why I have homeowners insurance. Metalhead, Satan deflected the bullet. He is Antichrist. I'm assuming he's referring to former President Trump. Objection. Here's the I love diversity. Nothing wrong with diversity. America was always said we were a melting pot. But at some point, though, you still have to have assimilation to the society in which you want to live. When we were over in Europe in October, visited lots of countries. It was a lovely trip. I'd love to go back. I want to go back to Italy especially. But if I wanted to live in Italy, the old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans. You got to adapt to, let's see here, Commander-in-Chief. I'm sorry. I think it's unlikely that there was incompetence on the part of the Secret Service. There must have been planning, and a lone wolf would never have achieved that on a rooftop alone. The Commander-in-Chief, I can't disagree with you. Unless the facts come out otherwise, it's certainly a possibility. Either it was a complete and utter failure on the part of the Secret Service, or somebody allowed that guy to get to the rooftop. And when people were at the event were noticing that guy, why did the snipers on the roof there to protect not only people in the crowd, but outside of the crowd, not see this guy before people that were there doing it? Mirabella, Pickle, agree. A lot of things are long gone. I feel like we're watching the Titanic. U.S. destroying ourselves from within. Scott, explain in your opinion how Chris Watts received 5 first-degree murder life sentences for killing 3 people. Well, I'd have to go back and look, but we covered this case quite extensively. For those who don't know, Chris Watts, one of the reasons why we started this program years ago was the Chris Watts case. And what that boils down to is that Chris Watts pled guilty to killing his wife Shanann, pled guilty to killing his daughters. I think they're 3 and 5 at the time, as well as account for the unborn son. So let's see here. So he pled guilty to those 3 counts, which would have been 3 consecutive life sentences plus that. I don't think there was the unborn son wasn't a first degree murder because Colorado doesn't necessarily recognize child until it's born. But there was a charge for basically terminating a fetus prematurely. And then you had, I think that was it, but he has 3 life sentences plus X number of years. So I think that's how I got that. I have to go back and look at his actual plea to confirm that. So hopefully that answers your question. Objection here, say I stay on my farm most days. I would love to be able to do that. Going back, yes, get the stuff that in your heated driveway so you don't have to shovel the ice. I love spaghetti and having homemade thick butter pecan shakes. Would an actor know a blank from alive? No. And jumping back to the Alec Baldwin case, that particular revolver, you wouldn't necessarily see the round in that particular chamber. Yes, the ones around it, 6-shooter, but the one in the chamber like that, he may not have actually seen that. And he was told. I mean, like I said, it's a negligence standard. He should have known better. He should have done this. So, like I said, I think the judge made the correct trolling here. Not trolling pickle zero trust, but how do you keep yourself safe from all possibilities out there? You can't. You just do the best you can. People are the cruelest animals on the planet. Can't necessarily disagree with that. Like I said, if people saw the depravity of what humans can do to other humans, it would shock them, but it would also maybe raise their awareness to it as to what takes place. People need to understand that evil exists in the world, ladies and gentlemen, and evil needs to be dealt with. A big group hug isn't going to change the world. All this kumbaya stuff, it ain't happening. Another question that won't go away: will it be necessary for Trump to participate in any debate now on? I think former President Trump has said he will debate President Biden anywhere, anytime. You pick the place. As we saw, the last one didn't exactly go well for Biden at all. And I think Trump would do that again in a heartbeat. I don't know, but I would expect Trump's poll numbers to go up by about 10 points. We'll have to wait and see. Scott, the Alec Baldwin case reminds me of the Barry Morphy case, how the police and the DA messed up Suzanne's murder case, and he's still walking free, though Susan's remains have been found. Yes, they have. Now, yes, the prosecutors in the Suzanne Morphy case screwed that case up bad, and it also looks like the prosecution, whether through incompetence or knowingly, didn't turn over various evidence in the case, exculpatory evidence. That case should never have been filed. The affidavit for arrest was 120 pages long, mostly full of speculation on the part of the police. And the reality of it is it should never have been filed until they had much better evidence. They now have the remains, and yes, no charges have been filed. I do not expect any charges to be filed. In fact, we should know here shortly, because it happened a couple of weeks ago in a courtroom in the Denver District Courthouse. I think it was on the third floor of the Denver courthouse, was the disciplinary hearing for the lead prosecutor in that case, Linda Stanley. We'll see whether she is going to potentially lose her law license because of her conduct. We'll see. But the other common thread throughout that is when you get these small town jurisdictions that have neither the experience, I wouldn't say skill, but the experience in handling large type of cases, lots of evidence, lots of interviews. They're just not used to those types of cases, and they get overwhelmed. They have a lack of resources, lack of qualified people, and then they wind up screwing the case up. Big city, in the small cities, small jurisdictions don't want to call on the attorney general, for help because everyone's going to think we're a bunch of hayseeds out here if we can't prosecute this case. And so they try to do it on their own. They screw it up. And in the case of Alec Baldwin, yes, it's very much like Barry Morphew. It appears, obviously, in the Alec Baldwin case, the prosecutors lied. They lied. They knowingly hid evidence. And I think the judge made the absolute correct decision. It's a black eye on the legal system. It's a black eye for prosecutors. But it was good, and I hate to say it, the only time you ever see any change come about from circumstances like this is when something happens in a high-profile case. Because if you're just a Joe Blow on the street and this is being done to you, yeah, you've got your defense attorney doing it, but usually if that maybe wasn't an Alec Baldwin case, maybe there wasn't a smoking gun where basically the prosecutors admitted that they lied, police officers lied. So it's like, well, I'm going to declare a mistrial, or I'm not going to allow you to use that evidence. I always find there's no bad faith. Yeah, you can't find bad faith, Judge. But judges oftentimes make the decision. So my hat's off to the judge in the Alec Baldwin case. She totally nailed it. She did a great job. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've been going at it for a while, over 3 hours, probably one of the longest lives we've ever done. And this cigar is just about done. Hopefully, by morning, we'll have more information as it relates to the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Hopefully, we have the suspect ID'd and we know more about him. I don't buy that the FBI says they don't know who it is, but they're not making an identification yet, other than saying that he is a 20 or 22-year-old male, and that's it. Somebody needs to be fired, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody needs to be fired on the Secret Service side. And if people were intentionally withholding evidence or security for the protection of Donald Trump, minimum fired, maybe prosecuted for sure. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Impossible to disagree with the event Trump. Possible to disagree. This event, Trump gained sympathy of anti-gun activists. Can't disagree. Like I said, I bet his poll numbers go up by 10 points. If you were a lawyer, you'd be a liar by default. Ooh, ouch, ouch. Is it Minzai? Not sure. But, this may come as a hard shock to you, but yes, lawyers are not supposed to lie. You can't lie to the court. You can argue reasonable inferences drawn from the evidence or the lack thereof. And even if your client's on video and confessed, you can still get up and say, my client is not guilty. Because they are, unless and until the prosecution proves their case beyond a reasonable doubt. You can call me lots of things. You can call me an idiot. You can call me fat. You can do whatever you want. But don't call me a liar. So typical of the news, poof, on to the next crisis. I don't know what the stats are here, but Sally says many female police officers get their male partners killed from killers taking the guns from female cops. The statistics are high. I haven't seen those statistics. I'll take your word for that. We'll have to wait and see. How do you deal with refuse to take you seriously? This just happened. This is the Chicago thing. The woman I knew called 911 and taunted me, and then to say that he was homeless is ignorant. How do I follow up? You can make a complaint, but it's not going to go anywhere. It should all be on body camera. Make a complaint. Make a complaint in their civil liabilities affair. Scott, did you hear that Lori Vallow was denied her request to keep cameras out of the courtroom for her murder trial in August, and the prosecutors wanted no cameras or any transparency as well? Good. I'm glad the judge, high profile cases, I'm of the opinion that we should have cameras in every courtroom and that everyone should be able to watch literally just any proceedings that take place anywhere. Transparency is a good thing, right? That's why we have a right to open public trials. Yes, anybody can go in and watch in that courtroom, but let's face it, not everybody can travel and watch any courtroom they want. This is Crime Talk, right? The facts that are clear. A shot that hits the ear required a lot of training, a lot of experience, precise aiming, all evidence that it was planned. A fact. I agree. It was planned. The question is, are we ever going to find out if the shooter acted alone? I hope we find out. I hope we find out sooner rather than later. Let's see here. Real Justice talking about the Chris Watts again. No, in Colorado, the unborn son was NTO, not murder. Yeah, it was like termination of pregnancy, I think is what he pled guilty to on that one. We'll have to wait and see. Oh, we're getting in the woods. Conversation has obviously taken place. I figure it's pretty much a grand bit of hyperbole to pronounce the end of the regulatory agencies based upon the end of Chevron. For those who don't recall, the Chevron decision was reversed by the United States Supreme Court. What that was an opinion back in the 80s, I do believe, where it said, hey, if Congress created a statute, delegated, and there was some vagueness in the statute, then the courts should give great deference to the experts at the regulatory agency. And so a lot of times these agencies were creating rules at great expense to the people they were regulating. The case went to the Supreme Court, and I don't recall the name off the top of my head, but the general facts were these fishermen, I think off Maine, were required by some agency that was there to monitor their lobster fishing. And what it came down to is the agency said, hey, lobster fishermen, you need to pay to have these monitors on this ship. I think it was people. But don't worry, it's only going to cost you like $750 per day. And the fisherman sued, said, this is crazy. And the statute that, was there, this is beyond the authority of the regulatory agency. And the Supreme Court agreed and said, hey, Congress, get back to doing your job. Your job is not to make vague statutes. Your job is to be very specific. Yes, you can enforce it. I don't think the regulatory agencies are going to go away, but I would think that kind of like in Argentina, they could get rid of at least probably 50% of the administrative state by firing half the people there because they don't know what they're going to be doing if they have nothing to regulate, which their jobs in most regulatory agencies is to simply create more paperwork, bureaucracy for everybody in the name of keeping their own job and justifying their existence by creating more work for everybody else. Linda Stanley, referring to the Suzanne Morphy case, she jumped the gun. She wanted profiling evil with Mike King and kept breaking rules in other cases as well. Yeah, like not turning over discovery. and ignoring the court's order to turn over discovery. And yes, she went on Mike King's show. I saw Mike King at CrimeCon. I think he was actually going to be a witness in that case for Linda Stanley. And I was shocked and appalled that Linda Stanley would go on Mike's show. I think Mike's a good guy, but I was surprised that she would go on there and talk about an active case like that. And it may have been to her demise, to say the least. So we'll have to wait and see. Prosecutors are supposed to follow where the evidence leads, not where they won't. You don't get the result you wanted. As Justice Scalia said at one point, I saw him speak once. He said, if you're a judge that always gets the results you want, you're probably not a very good judge, because the law doesn't always require the result that you want. Same thing with prosecutors. All right, that's all we have for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. 3 hours and 30 minutes. I think that's probably as much as you want to have of me. We may do it again. We'll see if there's more updates. And for our regular followers, I'm supposed to be in trial this next week, so we'll see if we have shows throughout the week. I know we got some trials lined up for you as well, so make sure you watch those as well. We're going to bring you the Alec Baldwin case from gavel to gavel, but obviously that ended. So make sure you tune in. Remember, subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications when we go live or put up new content. And remember, you can listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Have a wonderful night, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, the Constitution matters.